Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything. Yes, I'm using jazz hands, but mostly the stuff we like. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to dive into something that we have been threatening for a little bit here in our pre-production meetings. I think we might have even mentioned it in our actual recorded show at least once. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask y'all to believe tonight as we talk about Ted Lasso. That's right. Believe that. Grow out your mustache, get yourself some Nikes, and a nice sweater vest. Oh no, actually, was it a sweater vest or was it just a sweater?
Might have just been a sweater.
Yeah, it was a kind of a V-neck sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Looks sharp though. Looks sharp. I mean, did you ever watch the? Anyways, we're gonna dive into this in episode 177. Believe, the Ted Lasso recap, something or rather. Anyways, I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is the man who believes that steak is life. He has been my partner in Idiocy for over 2 decades and is currently picking a T-bone out of his teeth from last week. I give you the man they call Tim.
Greetings and salutations, my friend, and thank you for the intro. I appreciate the Danny inspired sticker.
Football is life. Danny Bones, Danny Bones. I missed his theme song after a while. Like, it was just that kind of first couple episodes he was on, and then all of a sudden it was gone.
I gotta say, it is such a delight for me to see you like this enthusiastic about it, because I brought this show up in and another thing, and I encourage you to watch it, and you're just kind of like, I don't know.
I have a tough time with streaming because when my life gets busy, it's very tough to kind of fit it in, and yeah.
But your story was very reminiscent of our story, because we had the same sort of thing. My wife and I, when we started watching it, we're like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. I hear from colleagues this is a great show, but I'm just like, I don't know. And it was after, episode 1. Let's try episode 2, and okay, this is picking up steam. And then I've shared this a couple times on the show, but the real test were the kids, because rarely do we ever have intersecting likes when it comes to TV viewing, and man, they were all over it. It was incredible. And so it was neat for us to have at least a show like that we could kind of share with them and watch together and stuff. So it was
very important for me that, well, it helped for me to actually watch the entire thing. The fact that my wife was so into it. Mm-hmm. She was the one who was like, okay, another episode. It totally was digging back to when I introduced her to Battlestar Galactica. Well, the thing was, she knew about it. I was obsessive with it. She had bought the DVDs for me and everything, and she just kind of thought it was like, oh my gosh, this is your little sci-fi show. And then I got her to sit down and watch the miniseries. It created a monster. She was so locked in on it, and it was the same with this. Like we were watching. There was one day I think we watched 5 or 6 episodes. Like we. Actually, no, I think one day we watched an entire season. There was one day I think we season 2 I think we polished off in a day.
It's like the Empire Strikes Back of that trilogy of a series. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a ride, man. It was a ride. But yeah, we're gonna be digging into that. Our favorite characters, thoughts over the whole thing, and digging into a little bit of minutia. It's been a little while since I watched it, so hopefully some of the.
It's been a long while since I watched it, so I just did a quick skim through Wikipedia, and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so this will be interesting.
What a catch, baby!
But now we are going to get into a little something we like to call the Week in Geek. This is a whole bunch of tidbits of information, various pop culture detrius, and we are going to. Oh my gosh! And yeah, it's Tim's part of the show, so he's very excited.
I'm just doing the RVD thumbs, baby.
Yeah, let's get into it right now.
Here, right? It's looking at me.
Coach Beard would be all over this.
Oh, he would. Oh my. Dude, the dancing in that one club, was he not like
Oh, it was fantastic.
locked in or what?
Chef's kiss. All right, what do we got this week, sir?
Well, we got to start things off right.
Oh, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tales from the Gridiron, week 2. Here we go. How'd you do, sir? How'd you do?
Well, technically, we're recording this on a Monday night, which is a little unusual. Usually, we're recording on Tuesday nights. So right now, as things stand, I am getting my keister kicked, 201 to 106.
Do we not have the music?
I've added in afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought you.
So I've got 2 players going tonight. Both of them are on Philly, which means Philly's going to lose like 63 to nothing.
Mm.
Although
Saquon Barkley last week, he's on my team in the other league I do with.
he was a man, myth, and a legend. The
with
problem,
the kiddos,
the
put up
problem
like 50
being
some
here,
odd points. So
every single starter in my lineup, except my kicker and my defense, underperformed.
Ew.
And I took I immediately paid for the fact that I took Marvin Harrison Jr. out of my lineup because he gave me a big whopping 1 point. Marvin Jr. went off for 29 points.
Oh God!
Yeah, that kicked me right in the giblets. Let me tell you,
Uncle Todd is now once again thrilled. He has thrown his hat back into the ring, isn't he?
Well, the thing here is like it was just my entire team. Like it's with the exception of the kicker, defense, and Marvin Jr. Every single player on my roster, bench and starters, underperformed from what their projected stats were. So it was just like my entire team. The fantasy gods just said, you know what, F him in particular, and smote me.
You know what the fantasy god said to you?
Nana! Pretty much.
Not this week.
Pretty much. So I'm definitely. I think I've got an 8% chance of winning right now. My opponent has no players. Does he? No. Yeah, he has no players remaining. So I have 2. I've got what's his face here? Who's this? Of course, it doesn't bring up a thing to show me who he is. Devonta Smith. And I got Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
So they're anticipated for 16 and 33 points, respectively. Somehow I don't see them combining for just about 100 points.
Barkley could go for 70, and Smith could go for another 30, 35. You never know.
I don't know. I'm going to keep the window open because the Monday night game is kicking off right now, Eastern time. So we'll see how this whole thing shakes out through the night.
Okay.
But yeah, how about you, sir? I'm guessing that you did a little bit better.
I did, but just one word of encouragement: believe, my friend. Believe.
Thank you.
Right.
I
was
believe in my fake football team.
25 to 30% favored last week, and I roared back and defeated the team, and I am undefeated, and I will continue to be undefeated. Once again, 203 to 132. He's got one player going tonight. I don't think it's going to amount to a hill of beans, so I got this one lock, stock, and barrel, 2-0. And I will be one of 2 teams, I think, left that are undefeated in our league. So, yeah, man, they call Tim as sitting high on the hog when it comes to fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it's about time for me to dump my backup quarterback. I drafted Trevor Lawrence on the sleeper side of things.
Oh, okay.
I think it's about time for Trevor to get himself kicked to the curb here because I don't have. That's looking like a glaring weakness coming up here. Although wait a minute. He actually did get 41 points for very middling. Oh, no, he got 28 points. Never mind. He sucks. Yeah, so that's that.
But one misstep with my lineup that ended up not being a misstep is I had intended to start Cameron the Kicker Dicker and decided I forgot to actually make the shift. So I had Cincinnati's kicker in there, not Elle McPherson, but Evan McPherson.
I hope not Elle McPherson.
Well, you never know. But
she's a little over the hill in terms of football shape.
Fair enough. Let's see. I'm checking the news here because it looks like both.
Wow, Elle McPherson's 60.
Let me see. It looks like Debo may be out. I know he's already played, but he may miss a few weeks with a calf strain.
Oh boy. Oh,
come on now.
Here the wheels start coming off.
Cooper Kupp is also going to be.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
On.
Here we go.
Oh, never. Never.
I see that voodoo doll that I bought off eBay is working well.
Oh my gosh, and Pacheco's also out next week. What the heck?
Pride cometh before the fall, sir.
Dang! He had to undergo surgery today. He's going to be out 6. Oh, freaking! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, good Lord. Well, it was fun while it lasted. I'm going to have to dip into the free agent pool and see what I can muster here.
You'll have to drown your sorrows in some more of that Apple Jack Daniels.
I think I will. It's actually pretty good over ice.
Is that what you're having now?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm having Woodford Reserve Double Oaked.
Oh, look at you having the bougie Woodford.
All right. Well, hey, that sums up our week 2. Uncle Todd suffering through a rough one. Man, they call Tim riding high, but apparently about to crash and burn. Maybe 3 players. Good God. I will persevere.
You better watch out. Your rear might be pursed.
Perseverance, baby. All right. I am going to like milk that one tonight. All right. Moving on. We got an interesting tidbit of news last week. We didn't have time to talk about it because we already had kind of a full slate in the Week in Geek, but we will discuss it right now. Oh, thank you very much, Dusty. Raw. What I love is I later read that apparently the talent found out about this the same time we all did, which was basically one of the announcers. They were doing an in-ring interview segment, and it's one of the new guys, Joe Tessitore or something like that. He's one of the new. He's with Wade Barrett.
Yes, he's taken over because they moved Cole back to SmackDown.
Yeah, they moved Cole and Corey Graves to SmackDown. Yep.
Yeah.
So Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett. But Tessitore announced that Raw is going to move to 2 hours. I forget if I don't think it's starting this week, but it is starting. Oh no, it is for the remainder of 2024. So it could be today.
Well, yeah, because this is that oddball extension.
Oh, October 7th. October 7th is when it's going to start.
Yeah, because we're in that oddball extension that USA gave WWE because they realized like Netflix didn't. The Netflix contract didn't start till January, and somehow I don't understand how no one thought to look at a calendar to know that the WWE contract expires with USA at the end of August or early September. Like,
reading, it's a beautiful thing.
Hey, how do you guys feel about a couple extra months?
Oh my goodness!
So it'll be interesting, but yeah, I can see how that would kind of make things ripe for a few changes. I don't know if this was planned ahead, but I could see it being a like, oh crap, we got to do this because USA had already promised time to X, Y, and Z, and this is how they're making good on everybody.
Yeah, I think it's a great move, honestly. What's ironic is we talked about this 1 or 2 episodes ago. We were talking through how difficult it must be, and all the TV that you have to write for all these different characters for a 3-hour show week over week.
Yeah.
And it just feels like a 2-hour show is tighter, less you have to write, but it also is probably more of a strain now on the talent because now talent has to fight harder for airtime because there's less of it.
Yep.
And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They are moving to Netflix in January, and that goes from being bound to a strict kind of time schedule to now a much looser format where if they want to run over, they can. And if they don't want to, they don't have to, And so I'm actually kind of excited by the move to see how it maybe tightens it up and maybe provides a little focus. I can't remember. Is SmackDown 3 hours or 2 hours?
No, it's 2 hours. But there was a rumor that when it came, because now SmackDown, USA now owns all of WWE till the end of the year. So SmackDown was moving from Fox to USA, and at first, when someone had posted a graphic of the Friday night lineup on USA, and it showed SmackDown as a 3-hour show because they had like one of the Fast and Furious movies on before, and then the next one didn't come on until 11, with SmackDown starting at 8. And apparently, then there was a correction made later where they said, no, there's actually this 1-hour show that will be happening at 10. So SmackDown's going to stay a 2-hour show. So 2 hours on both ends, which kind of makes sense.
Interesting.
And I see your points. I think it's not like it's going to shake up the world. I mean, WWE has been doing a 2-hour show all along with SmackDown, so it's not like they're at a loss for like, well, how do we do this?
Yeah,
they know, they've been doing it a while. So I think it's more interesting is this prep work for going to Netflix?
Mm.
Is it, like I said, is this like a make good with USA? Like, hey, they have to make good for somebody else and try and put in some other programming. So they're asking for that hour back. I don't know. I haven't really read any reasons. Have you, or have you seen any rumors about that?
Not really. I mean, like I said, this kind of came a little bit as a surprise. I don't know that a lot of folks in the know were expecting this. And like I said, it kind of works a little bit against where they are right now because, you know, as we discussed, I think it was like 2 episodes ago for Bash of Berlin, that, you know, with the PLEs being shorter now, you know, more of the storytelling is being done in the actual television shows, and, you know, then the matches are playing out at the events that pay off on those. And so now you have less time for that. But I also wonder if it causes there to be tighter stories being told because now you don't have as much time that you have to fill. And so,
one just quick correction. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't. The PLEs aren't really shorter. I mean, it's still running about 3 hours for most of the PLEs, and then
shorter
like
in terms of card size. Like we're talking about 5 matches as opposed to 7 or 9. You know,
okay,
or if you're
so that's where you were
AEW,
talking.
like 15. So
I thought you were talking like the length of time.
Oh no. I just meant more the number of matches and the way they frame it more of as a sporting. You know, it feels more of like an actual like, you know, big fight night sort of card event as opposed to it being another version of like Raw or SmackDown where there's tomfoolery and shenanigans happening.
It's almost it comes down to like, if you took this 10 years ago, like a lot of the matches that they're having on these PLEs could have been main events.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Yeah.
Like it feels like a card full of matches that are either main events or semi-main events rather than like some of the garbage matches that used to find their way into even like WrestleMania. Like you go through those and you're like, that was a match on WrestleMania. The showcase of the Immortals.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Anyways, I didn't mean to.
No. So I'm just wondering if it forces the writing team to, you know, really tighten up the way that they are telling stories. Like, and I mean that not in terms of, you know, just time, but, you know, when you think about it, if you know, if you have 3 hours and you're trying to fill it, you may inflate some of the things you're doing to fill that time. Whereas if you're down to a more compressed time period, like 2 hours, and you have all this talent that you have to produce content for, you now may focus your energies a little bit, you know, more strongly so that you're writing maybe shorter segments, but the segments have more, you know, more meaning to them, are a little more impactful. And you're able to serve the talent better. So there's kind of pros and cons to it that I'll be curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I'm shocked that they've been going this long at 3 hours for Raw. It almost feels in some ways like at times it was almost tiring for them, because it just seemed like you know, some of that I think is the creative regime too, that I just think, you know, with Triple H and his crew now and everything they're doing, it just seems like they have, you know, there's some long-term thinking going into what's going on. So I'm excited to see what it does. I mean, in all honesty, I haven't really watched a full Raw in quite some time. I mean, I'll catch SmackDown on Friday night sometimes when I'm home. Monday nights, you know, I'm usually busy doing other things, and so I'm just not able to sit down and watch it. And, you know, I'll watch clips on YouTube maybe the next day on the train. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how 2 hours, you know, impacts the product, and hopefully it, you know, hopefully positively so we shall see.
I wonder if we're going to get, like you're saying, tightening up the writing, and instead of like, I'm wondering how that'll affect stories, in that, are we going to get longer story arcs?
Yeah,
because there's only going to be so much happening on each show. And are we going to start seeing like some of the undercard, just, okay, this feud is not on TV this week, it'll be on next week, because we can't have that, because you're always going to have the main event.
Yep.
Which I think is funny how there's been a lot of internet folks who are like, yeah, Triple H is booking the main event guys, you know, and gals, great, but the undercard is suffering. I'm like, well, that's where the money's at. That is the one thing from the Vince regime that goes back to just since wrestling has been wrestling, is what do you got to do? You got to draw money. And where is that money usually drawn? The main event. That's why people are there. So at least they're doing that, because back a few years ago, the main event wasn't even being booked well. So I'm wondering if this will kind of help with some of the pacing of the undercard, and some of those undercard stories can kind of breathe a little bit, and how they'll juggle that. The fact that this was announced the way it was, where it. Oh, great. Someone's lighting off fireworks in my neighborhood. Yay.
Oh, dear.
Tain't July 4th anymore, dumbos. Anyways, where this was a kind of last minute revelation, to me that lends more to like this is kind of a last minute kind of quickie agreement between WWE and USA that was a little bit in negotiations. That was like, hey, we got to figure this out. Like, yeah, we said you could have the time, but we need that time back. We need a little bit of it back because we have other agreements, and how that works. Quick question for you, because you'll know this better than me, and obviously my Google foo on this will probably take longer than it's worth. Raw went to 3 hours because of Nitro, like back in the day, didn't it? Because Nitro was a 3-hour show, wasn't it?
No. When did Raw go to 3 hours? Let me just check.
I always thought that was kind of a holdover from the Monday Night Wars thing, and if so, like, it's kind of remarkable that it has hung around that long.
No, they started the 3-hour format beginning with the 1000th episode on July 23rd, 2012.
Wow. So it took that long. Okay.
I think they tried to do. They might have tried to do 3-hour shows, but I don't know if I don't think TNT allowed it very often if they did.
That's right, because they were. Oh yeah. I was going to say, I was like, oh yeah.
They had overruns, but they never went to a third hour.
You said TNT. I was thinking of that brief time when didn't Raw go to TNN, and then they quickly changed it to Spike.
Yep.
Oof.
That was awful.
What an abomination that was.
Ugh. All right. Well, we will wait with bated breath to see how Raw does as it moves to a 2-hour format.
And already we are not plowing through the Week in Geek as promised.
We are plowing through. We're on item number 3, and this is going to be a quick one because you're going to ask why did Murphy write this from Murphy's Multiverse, ladies and gentlemen? That's right. We went back.
Murphs, not Murphys. Murphs.
Well, it says
Get
Murphys
it right.
here. Murphs. Okay. Murph and the Magic Tones.
Hey, don't diss on Murph and the Magic Tones. Oh, it is Murphy's Multiverse. I thought it was just Murphs.
I thought it was too. It turns out it's Murphy's. Maybe bourbon makes the Y go away. So I don't know.
Murph and the Magic Tones, those suits were.
They were top notch.
Quite lovely.
Top notch. But he writes here that the MCU has found its Wolverine, and I think Uncle Todd's
Henry Cavill, welcome.
Is going to love this article because really what it boils down to is they're banking on Hugh Jackman coming back, ladies and gentlemen, for Secret Wars and maybe for a couple other things. So it seems as if Mr. Jackman isn't fully done yet.
Like Deadpool was saying, until you're 95.
That's right. That's right. Oh my goodness. But it basically just seems to indicate that we will be getting a little bit more of Mr. Jackman, as I mentioned, for Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The idea, so right now, he's 55. He might stay on beyond 2027, but that might be harder for people to maybe take because he is probably going to start showing his age at some point.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of de-aging that you can do and all that, and it seems like they're much more content for Hugh to be wearing, like a full suit instead of like back in the old X-Men movies and into Logan and all that. Like there was always like he had to be in, like you had to be in topless,
ripped,
superhero shape. Where now it's like, okay, you can add a little padding in there, so it's obviously I don't think he's going to stop training because he's still got arms and all that.
Yeah,
there's a certain amount of musculature that you're going to have to keep, but I think they can cheat it a little bit better because I think that's a part of the exasperation with a lot of these guys like Chris Evans and Hugh Jackman is just like, I don't want to be on this like stringent eating diet exercise schedule just so I can do like one day of shooting.
Yeah. But
I have to do like 8 months of this arduous like Mr. Universe crap. Either that or, they can give you a quick little shot of, something and, to help you, but
Oh my.
Well, no, like, I mean,
I know what you mean. I hear you.
HGH steroids and stuff, like, there's no Hollywood guild testing for performance enhancing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's like, do you really want to deal with that? I mean, I can kind of see the point. So,
yeah.
But I mean, hey, good for him. If he wants to do it, be happy to see him in the movies.
Hey, as long as we get a little more of that cowl from.
Oh my gosh, that was so good when
him going, nah, with it. Oh my gosh, that was incredible.
That was like the little comic book kid in me just geeked the hell out when that happened. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That was like, finally, it's the Wolverine I always dreamed of. I mean, yeah, he's like a foot taller, but still.
It's all good. It's all good. We're going to go from Murphy's Multiverse over to Variety.com, a little more well-known and established periodical. But this one is about, once again, staying within the Marvel Universe. Elizabeth Olsen saying Marvel didn't know what to do with Scarlet Witch for a second there, and she'll return only if there's a way to use her well. Basically discussing
so she's taking the Brock Lesnar route.
Apparently so. She's going to reside quietly up in Canada and hunt game, and then pop in for a pay-per-view here or there, make an appearance, layeth the smacketh down, and then get out of Dodge before anyone is the wiser.
I mean, it's nice work if you can get it. I'm just saying.
All I want to know is she going to have a hype man at the level of a Paul Heyman, though?
No one has a hype man like Paul Heyman.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
I just rewatched that documentary like between yesterday and today.
Yes.
And that dude, he is a silver-tongued devil. Like I'm just watching the documentary. I'm like,
yep.
I would follow this man into battle any day, and he would throw me in front of the bullets, and I'd probably do it gladly. Like, just that sort of thing.
Yep.
Jeez.
100%. But yeah, so just talking about her thoughts on, how she was, or how her character was used. I think there was a feeling from her side that they, it seems like they weren't really sure what to do with her. And I think mostly what she was kind of referencing was, once WandaVision, had finished, this idea of her becoming like a full-on villain. How are we going to make this all work? And she's like, we got there, but it was just kind of, I think there was, a little bit of turmoil for her in terms of seeing how that character was going to be used moving forward. And, I can't say I don't blame her. I think we all kind of came out of WandaVision feeling like, okay, well, what's next for her? And, in some ways, that series was, in a way, in some ways she was kind of the heel. I mean, she had an entire town basically under her thumb.
Yeah.
All while she was kind of dealing with her grief. And which I think was a great theme and a great use of the character to kind of play that theme out. But certainly when we got to Doctor Strange, in the Multiverse of Madness, where, she's just full bore, evil now. We don't know if it's because of the Darkhold. We don't know if it's because of, the attachment she developed for the kids that were somewhere in the multiverse, but not in her reality. It just seems like once Vision was gone, there was a lack of direction for her character. And so, it'd be kind of interesting. I think, even though, and I think we had a Week in Geek on this several episodes back, where there was some confirmation from Feige that she's, kind of dead and moved on. I think the Agatha trailer kind of gave us that sense as well, that Wanda is dead. But they also did her death in a way that there is an out to potentially bring her back. So, I think it'd be great for them to do so and do it with some heroics. But yeah, I would have to agree with kind of her assessment that I don't know. Do you feel like her character was a bit directionless there? Maybe through WandaVision or maybe after that?
Yeah. And I think part of that comes from thinking more about kind of the dysfunction we've been seeing and feeling throughout the last couple segments of the MCU. Part of the problem of doing this is it's totally unlike comics, but yet you're trying to kind of do comics in the movies in a way that no one's ever done before. And in the comics, not everybody reads everything. There's people who are Fantastic Four fans, and they might have a couple other books they follow. There's people who are just X-Men, and they'll follow everything X-Men, but they're not going to read every other book. So you can kind of have these characters siloed in a way and then cross them over, but even the crossover doesn't necessarily have to affect, because there's characters that have multiple books. Like at one point, and it might be again, Spider-Man had 3 distinct comic books running simultaneous. You had Web of Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man, and I forget the name of the third one. But they were all running at the same time. They were all publishing month after month simultaneously with completely different storylines and different timelines happening.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Like, people are still buying the books. So doing this in movies, everybody's watching everything. And it gets to be too much, or any kind of inconsistency stands out as glaring. Whereas in the comics, you're not really expecting consistency sometimes, because comics get fudged all the time. Like, backgrounds kind of get rewritten and redone all the time and updated, and books go away and then they come back and all this stuff. So you don't have that same leeway. And then at the same time, I feel for the actors, because as an actor, you want to know what's going to go happen with my character. Like, what's the future? Like, what is this character feeling? Like, how do I play the character that I best can? And in order to do that, you can't play it like a comic book. You have to understand the character. And when you get the sense that, like, nobody really knows what's going on, it's awful tough to play that character, I would imagine. Like, I'm the furthest thing from a professional actor, but just from what I've seen, read, and seen in interviews with actors, like, that's got to be a tough thing to deal with, when it's like, okay, what the hell is going to happen, and how do I play this? You know, so I totally understand it. Yeah, I think her character was directionless, and I think it's because Marvel got too far over their skis in terms of how much stuff they had going at once, and there wasn't necessarily the same level of thought and care and craftsmanship that was going into the early movies, because that was it was kind of all contained, and you're working on it, and it hadn't become as widespread. And now we're kind of seeing not just the pruning of timelines, we're seeing the pruning of the MCU, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, that is my long dissertation on that.
Very nice.
What do you think, sir?
Are you publishing this?
No.
All right.
No, not unless someone does an AI transcript of that, and you can just throw that out there, because I ain't going through and typing that up. I don't need to work on my MCU manifesto quite yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I could see her playing a role as the next version of the Avengers. I'm also not a comic book nut, so I don't know if some of this stuff falls in line with, canon, so to speak, from the comic books in terms of the direction of her character. I know there were characters who went through various heel turns and face turns and all of that. And so for me, I kind of look at it as a, I think WandaVision, like I said, was an interesting series that took the character in a very interesting direction that I don't think would have worked in a movie setting. I think it was really well done for television. And then, there is that point you get to where it's like, okay, she's this all powerful witch. So now what does she do? And it just seems like there wasn't a plan for it. I mean, that seems what was plaguing Phase 4 and Phase 5 overall. There wasn't really a plan for very much, or it feels that way.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate them. They did it with Civil War, where you had Stark versus, Rogers, in a way. And this, that wasn't exactly what they were doing in the Multiverse of Madness, but it still was disappointing in some ways to have her character just go so far down the evil path. I mean, there was just such a message of hope at the end of that show, where you thought she came to some measure of peace with the situation. But there was that kind of thread at the very end where, she was kind of levitating with the Darkhold, and, you could hear the sounds of her kids. So she was still kind of like exploring that attachment of being a mom. And so, all that to say, I just think, I think it had a more of a plan been in place and a better idea of what to do with characters like hers. I think it'd look very different. because I could see her being key in Secret Wars and some of these other, we don't know what role she would have played in Kang. But maybe that's the point of taking her out is to take out some of these, amped up, powerful heroes who maybe could have helped put Kang away pretty quickly. I don't know. So,
yeah. One addendum I will make is I actually think the heel turn kind of makes sense because not only did she lose Vision in Endgame, or more properly in Infinity War, we know for sure he's gone in Endgame. So she loses him then she loses him again at the end of WandaVision, along with losing her kids.
Yeah.
So you've got like this double trauma of losing the same person essentially twice.
Yeah.
And then you lose these children that you kind of also invented. So to me that was the explainability of the heel turn was the least of the problem for me, at least.
Yeah. All right, and let's see. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to save this next one for next time.
Right on.
Because as I was poking around online earlier,
do we even have a next episode ready?
No, but we always think of something, sir. I think we need to raise a glass, sir, for an icon has fallen. Tito Jackson of the Jackson 5 passed away today at the age of 7.
That is right. Yep.
And Tito was the unsung hero. I actually don't know, but I just like the name and
wow.
I'm sorry. I mean,
here I thought all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's a Jackson 5 fan, and nope, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
All right, so here's to Tito.
I just know him from. I think they had a bit of a.
Are we doing the toast or no?
Not yet. Hold on. I got to pour myself a little bit here. Hold on.
A little bit? You already had a little. You already had a lot bit.
What? I had a few drinks. What? No, but didn't they have a run? I thought they had a big tour in like the 80s where they all kind of.
Oh yes, which was part of the downfall of the New England Patriots.
Oh, okay. How are those two things connected? Oh,
because the less the more shyster-ish of the Sullivan boys helped to bankroll the Jackson Victory Tour.
Oh gosh.
And then didn't realize like the ginormous stage setup that they used for that tour wouldn't even fit into Foxborough Stadium. Wouldn't fit into a lot of football stadiums because it was so big. And the fact that they basically like said, hey, yeah, you guys can have whatever you want in your rider. And the Jacksons just went nuts and were like, their demands were luxurious and many. And then the merchandise wasn't selling because that was also the time when Michael Jackson started to have a little weird behavior start coming out. So Michael Jackson merchandise tanked, which the Sullivan son had spent a lot of money on. So they literally had trailers of this stuff at the stadium. It was Chuck Sullivan.
Oh,
Chuck Sullivan, who then apparently was then living at Foxborough Stadium in one of the super suites because he had to give up his home.
Oh my gosh.
And Billy Sullivan, the owner of the New England Patriots,
yes,
in order to pay off Chucky's debt, basically like sold off the stadium, and that's how I'm pretty sure that's how Kraft got it, and then ended up selling off the team to James Orthwine, and that's how the Sullivans lost the New England Patriots, the team that he had founded as an expansion team, or as a team expansion team in the AFL. So yeah.
So what I hear you saying is it was Chucky who was suspect.
Chucky was very suspect. Chucky was very suspect.
And there was no retainer.
No, well, it might have been too many retainers. That was the thing, and they all came due at once.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, an odd tie in there from Tito to Chucky to the Patriots. So,
all right, Tito Jackson, we thank you for the entertainment and for the years of song and dance. All right, and that, my friends, is a neat and tidy Week in Geek.
Well, thank you, sir, for going through all of that. That wasn't a statement on Tito. That was directed at you.
I assume that's Oh,
no.
Good.
Tito was there.
Thank you,
that was
Shiki.
Tito.
There we go.
The gentleman who is co-hosting with me.
Yeah,
Right there. So let's
fair
just
enough.
get that clear.
Fair
All right, let's dive into Ted Lasso. Oh, wait a minute. You're running this discussion too. So take it away again.
Well, would you like to run it? I mean, that's okay.
Well, I mean, I got to say, like,
I mean, you kind of inspired this episode because I never thought to bring this up as something we would do, if only because you had never seen it, and now you have seen it, and it's like, oh, well, what's your thoughts on this, sir? Because it's a very interesting show, and as we'll talk about tonight, I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, I don't want to overstate it too much, but it's probably close to like the perfect series in a lot of ways. You know, the way it was kind of done and put together and executed. I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a lot of television shows that were able to pull off what this show pulled off and do it with style, flair, class, and some depth, like very deep, you know, topics and issues that television doesn't normally deal with. And so,
No. So first and foremost, my major thought on this was my wife and I were taking a walk after we had started watching season 1. I think it was the day after we had started the first season, and I think we were walking to get a coffee or something, and I was like, it's so wild. Like watching that show has made me want to be a better person. And I'm like, I feel like such a dork saying it. And I'm like, my wife's gonna be like, oh my gosh, give it up. And she's like, me too. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not the only person. Like the show, like literally the Ted Lasso character, especially through that first season, just makes you want to try harder. You know, like he is so gracious to people around him and so supportive and also not really a wimp. Like you start thinking like this guy's an idiot, and you start to realize like he's not really a fool. Like he understands, and he knows when to step up and when to just kind of let people do their thing and embarrass themselves. And like I literally my overarching thought in that first season was like, man, I got to try harder as a human being. I really do. I need to try harder. But no, you're completely right. Like this show does such a great job of blending comedy, drama, and well-written characters, well-acted characters. And it is very tough to blend comedy and drama and to make it turn on a dime and to still be able to pull things out with a laugh. The other show that I think did this really well, and also I believe was 3 seasons, was Titus. Which is phenomenal show that used to be on Fox way, way, way back in the day, starring Christopher Titus. And that managed to mix. They had some heavy episodes on that show.
Yeah.
Like they did a show after Matthew Shepard, who was the teen who was gay and then was killed. And they did an entire show on that. And they knew when to let you off with a laugh.
Yeah.
When to hit you with a bunch of heavy stuff, and then they'd let you off with a laugh. And then there's other times they wouldn't let you off the laugh. They'd make you sit with it. And they would do it, and watching it on DVD, like you lose a little bit of that impact because there's no commercial break. But there's a couple times in that show, like they deliberately would send you to commercial break on like a so heavy, somber note and make you sit with it. Like you've got 2 minutes now, 2.5 minutes of Pizza Hut, you know, movie commercials and AT&T. Like that was back when we had the, you know, 1010, 220 kind of crap. Like use our long distance number.
Right.
Like you had to sit through 2.5 minutes of that while you're just like processing this thing that this comedy show just dropped on you. That's the closest I can come to the deft blending of comedy and drama. Yeah, no, it was a fantastic show. And as there are rumors going around right now that there will be a season 4. Apparently they've locked up a couple of the main characters, kind of on the Brit side of things. I believe Hannah Waddingham has signed up again. I think there's 1 or 2 other. I don't know exactly who's. I think Juno Temple might have signed up again, but now it's just mostly getting like Sudeikis, you know, a few others, and then seeing where it would go. Like part of me wants to see what's going on with these characters, and the other part of me is like, man, that is like 3 seasons. That is just like it is perfect. It's just it finishes up, and you're like, I want more, but at the same time, Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That if that's it, that's a great way to end.
Yeah.
No, it's a fantastic show. Fan-friggin-tastic show.
And we were talking about this in the pre-production meeting, and I think even before then in prior conversations about this show, how, when my wife and I started watching it, it was, we didn't know what to think of it. And we, we kind of went in a little skeptical, like not, it looked kind of goofy, and we're just like, I don't know if we're going to like this and stuff. And it really was amazing how it just kind of locked you in, and a lot of it, like you said, has to do with, Ted's character and the optimism and positivity he portrays. And then, and the way he treats people, and so it really then motivates you to want to see where does this all go. And then as you get into each season, you just want to see more because you're just so enthralled with the characters and the stories that are going on. And just the themes that the series tackles. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a series that really highlights, mental health the way that Ted Lasso does. And I think in the past, maybe Lost was one of the first shows I remember that really kind of dove into, religious themes, but also the concept of really highlighting forgiveness. And that is like a cornerstone of Ted Lasso, is how many times do we see forgiveness on display?
Yeah.
And giving people another chance and healing, and how, we need to find ways to understand one another. I think this is stated in the show at certain points. I forget if it's when Rebecca apologizes to him in season 1, but he talks about, I think, how hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
And, how that heal, like trying to understand, like, what is really the reason behind what's going on, and trying to be there for someone. And Ted starts out as persona non grata, special shout out to the old, I'll say it this way, the old bastard who walks by and always is like yelling crap at Ted. Until finally in season 3, he still yells at him, but it's kind of like a little nod of respect,
Yeah, there's a little bit of a hint of a smile as he's calling him a wanker.
That's right.
And I love how that becomes a thing. Like the first game, the entire crowd is chanting wanker at him.
Yes.
And then later on, they're doing it again, but Beard is like, listen again, like it's changed, and now it's affectionate.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's it. It is that thing with. It's that thing that you experience with friends, and that if you're lucky, you can experience on a bigger basis. Where you can make fun of each other.
Yeah.
In a way that you both understand is like, I'm taking like us. Like I take jabs at you all the time. That I'm the farthest thing from serious on any of them.
No, I know the cheeky spitting was how you feel about me. I know.
Oh my gosh. Here we go. We're going to air our dirty laundry here on the podcast. Fine. You remember that time that you drank the last Sam Adams
back in the day?
But there and seeing that in view of like the team, the way the team interacts, the way the fans interact, and it is that, like, there is that aspect too of sports fandom where we saw this, you and I saw this growing up, like with the Red Sox, especially kind of a direct comparison to another team that just was a perennial pariah in many cases, and how once a fan base that has suffered so much takes a liking to you, that they will love you forever,
Yeah.
And how that works, and how intoxicating that can be on both sides, that love affair between sports fans and teams, and sports fans and players, and how it can also go very wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
All of that incorporated in this show, like the mental health issues, the fandom, the sports, all of it mixed in there, and the interpersonal issues, and the idea of larger global issues, and the fact that they managed to weave all this in here. And there were times when I felt like, okay, they kind of we've lost the plot a little bit because, well, okay, fine, but then it comes back eventually.
Yeah.
And it's fine. You know, again, it's a comedy show. Like, okay, that's going to be the first and foremost. But they did such a flipping good job on this show.
100%.
So good.
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's and we'll get into this later with the characters. There's, you know, it's not a murderer's row in terms of, you know, high profile actors in the show, but every character in the show shines at some point and has their moment. And, you know, all, you know, from Sam Obisanya to Nate to Coach Beard to Higgins. I mean, just every. That's right. That's right. What was Jamie Tartt's one? I'm forgetting that one.
Oh, freaking Baby Shark. Oh God, that's why I couldn't put him on the list. I just hated that. Hated it.
Yes.
My favorite though is Roy Kent.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
He's there. He's every effing where. Roy Kent. Roy Kent. And how they dug that back out at the end.
Yes.
Like when he's out, I was just like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it because it combines all the things I love about sports,
mm-hmm.
and then also drama and comedy and the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the show basically did what, you know, and we talked about this in the pre-production meeting, what BSG did very well, which was it built characters. And
it was BSG casting.
Yeah.
There's like you said, there's not a ton of high you know, big names like what Hannah Waddingham and Jason Sudeikis are kind of the biggest names, right?
Yep.
After that, everyone else is like, but they fill those spots
mm-hmm.
with interesting folks, and then gave them space and let those characters grow and all have their, like in Battlestar, they let them all have their own little bits of business and gave them all things to do so that it wasn't, you know, oh, that person's like could be a cardboard cutout.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So fantastic.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, and the other thing I just want to mention too was, I don't know another show that we've had. I mean, Friends to some degree, which we watched with our kids, but they even got into it. Like when my wife and I started watching it was shortly before we went on a family vacation to Washington D.C. And when we were down there at the Airbnb we were staying in, you know, they had the streaming services, and this is on Apple. I think it's Apple TV Plus, and so we asked them if they wanted to watch, you know, we just said it's fun. We think you'll really enjoy it. It's a fun show. So they watch an episode and then they want to watch the episode 2. And then they want to watch episode. I mean, it was just like, I've never seen them watch something with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not that we're like at each other, you know, like we have a very good relationship with our kids. It's just our likes in terms of art and TV and stuff like that are just in different places. And so it was really cool to see how that even grip them, you know, like they got really into it and they really enjoyed it, thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, they were also they were adults at that point. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of strong language and it's, you know, it deals with some pretty, you know, hefty adult themes, but it's good stuff, you know, for them to see and has a great message to it, you know, and all of that other stuff is just, you know, I think just, you know, life, honestly, you know, I mean, you know, Roy Kent is, you know, the character of Roy Kent shows such compassion at different points in the show, and yet is probably one of the hardest characters in terms of attitude and his mouth and just the way he looks at the world.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the guy who hugs Jamie Tartt when Tartt is humiliated by his father. He's the guy who sits at a press conference
after he just punched or headbutted his father.
Yeah. And
like was humiliated and then like lashed out at him. Like there's a double whammy there.
Yeah. And then sits at a press conference in season 3 and tells this story of guilt that he was living with, where he basically got a guy thrown off of his team because he made a crack and he had no idea what the guy was going through. And the crack was something that really touched a nerve of something going on in his life. And just, so to take someone who could be so hard, like a hardened individual, and see the heart that exists within that person at different points was done masterfully by the writing. And the way the creative team, you know, brought these elements of the characters out at different points in time. We see a little bit of Higgins' lifestyle, with his family and the way they host the soccer players who can't go home for Christmas, or you see it when Rebecca and is it Keeley? Yeah,
Yes.
Keeley, and their relationship, how they start off as two completely.
Yeah.
You have the successful professional woman and essentially the stripper / nude model, and they're together growing as, encouraging each other and helping each other and building each other up. And so it just connects all of these, disparate characters and pieces all through the message of kindness and forgiveness and understanding and empathy. And it's a medicine I think the world needs quite a bit. And Jason Sudeikis even said when he concepted this show, it was to bring some hope into the world, that not everyone is awful and bad. It was to be a beacon of hope. And I think he more than accomplished that goal.
Oh, totally. This is this next part of the outline. This is tough. This was
what's the next part?
Favorite season, favorite episode.
Yes. Now it's 3 seasons, so is it unfair to ask for a favorite?
No, because I mean, honestly, for me, it comes down to season 1 or 3. Season 2 is good. I enjoyed all 3 seasons, but I mean, season 1 was. It's tough. Like you go back to BSG, like there's a lot of classic episodes in that first season.
Yeah,
there's a lot of classic episodes later on too, but that first one just had a lot of heavy hitters. I mean, you come out of I just listened to the finished up last week the Eddie Olmos episode of the Katie Sackhoff podcast, and he talks about how 33 was the best episode that they did, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the first one.
Yeah.
Like that's gotta be a little discouraging in a way. Yeah. And he even kind of acknowledged that and then laughed in that raspy Eddie Olmos way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to hang out and have a beer with that guy. But it's tough to beat the first one because it's so new and everything is like brand new ground. So I mean, no, I don't feel too bad about it. Like I really enjoyed season 1. It hooked me in so quickly and then kept me hooked in. For the favorite episode, there's a lot, and it was really tough for me to pick one. But I mean, The Hope That Kills You, and I went with that one because really, Beard After Dark was like, I think for both of us, it's like our honor. It's both of us are honorable mentions, right? Because it was such a weird episode, and it was so great because you've been with this character enough that after a little while you're like, the hell does this guy do? And I realized like when I got to that episode, I was really wondering that somewhere back in my subconscious. And then as that episode unfolded, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm having like some sort of drug fueled delusion, like hallucination. I'm like, am I having a flashback? Like, no, I never took anything. Like, how in the hell am I having a flashback? I couldn't afford the good drugs. But so the one that the Hope That Kills You, to me resonated because I grew up as a Patriots fan, first and foremost. So I was born in 1976. The New England Patriots did not win their first Super Bowl until 2004. They appeared in 2 Super Bowls before that and were a laughingstock for most of the first 40 years of the franchise. Growing up with that as your main fandom, and also then being a peripheral Red Sox fan because my dad was a Red Sox fan, I never went full in on the Red Sox really until after the Patriots. No, the Patriots won in 2001. I'm sorry, I'm thinking the Red Sox. But I never really went in full on as a Red Sox fan until after the Patriots won the Super Bowl. Because I was like, I can only have so much misery in my life. I can't have 2 teams that are trying to kill me. Yeah. Because that was the old expression. The Red Sox killed my father and now they're coming for me. I'm pretty sure that was Lee Montville, or was that I don't think it was Bob Ryan. It was one of those Boston sports writers. It's a great line. But that so resonated with me. Like it's the hope that kills you, like getting that hope. Like in 86, the 85-86 Patriots fans, like the Patriots, New England Patriots was the first wild card team to win all of their games on the road in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl, and had a legitimate chance. Like they had a great running game. You know, they could have won it, and they run into the buzzsaw that was the 1985 Chicago Bears, 15-1, just was a team that was not going to be stopped. Then when they get to the Super Bowl again, then you have Parcells mucks half of it up with the fact that, you know, he's already out the door as coach and everybody knows it. And then you also run into Brett Favre, you know, at his peak. So you have those two disappointments on your resume, plus a lot of like 1-15 and 2-14 seasons in between there. It's like, God, it's like that. That's why when the Patriots won their first Super Bowl, and after the game, you called me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we were both equally inebriated, because I mean, I think we'd both been nervous drinking to the entire game. I kept, like Bill Simmons put it best, like I kept waiting for them to announce there was going to be a fifth quarter.
Yeah.
You know, because we can't end the game this way. The Patriots can't win. There must be another chance for the Rams to come back.
Right,
you know?
right.
Like
right.
I didn't believe it was over.
Yes.
That idea of, you know, the fans feeling that way resonated so much with me. And the fact that, like, even though it's a TV show, I was so rooting for the friggin' team. I was so like on the Richmond side. And when they lost, it was a gut punch. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, it's a fake friggin' game.
I know.
And I'm mourning it like it was Game 7 of the World Series.
They
like,
make
what
you
the
care.
hell?
They make you care. They make you believe.
And that's just taking not even into account all the other stuff that was going on there too. But it's like that alone made me just go, oh my gosh, this is something special. The fact that you just like when we talk about wrestling, like PLEs, like when those times when we get sucked into the match, we know how this works. We talk about the business and the background of the business, and yet they pull you in. And that's when you know, man, they're doing such a friggin' good job that even like wizened, jaded fans who kind of know, you know, they should know where the P is when you're shuffling the shells around. And you got me, son of a bitch.
Yep.
You know, so that one gets it for me, just for that. It was just, they did their damn job. So good. So good. What about you, sir?
So my favorite season, and I've read in articles, Jason Sudeikis saying, and I think Brendan, what's his name, who plays
Beard,
Brendan Hunt.
I don't know. I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause and go over here. I'm still listening though.
Have both stated that there is a bit of a Star Wars structure to the show, with season 1 being A New Hope, season 2 being Empire Strikes Back, and season 3 being Return of the Jedi. And so I'm actually going to go with season 2. That is the season that contains the ever popular, as we stated, Beard. Where is it? Beard After Hours.
Or is it after? I thought it was After Dark.
It says here on Wikipedia, Beard After Hours, so it must be true. Must be true.
I thought it was like a Playboy After Dark reference.
What else? It has the Christmas episode, which was great. It has, where is it? It has that really. I mean, there's a few moments in the show where it really, you know, it gets dusty in the room a little bit, and Man City, which is the one where they end up losing again. I think they play Manchester City at Wembley, and they lose, and Jamie's father comes in and just absolutely just you know, humiliates him in front of the team. And we've already talked about it. That's the part where Roy Kent, you know, kind of walks up afterwards and just, you know, just hugs him, and he just breaks down crying, and you know, it's like that scene always just struck me, because Roy Kent of all characters is the last one you think, you know, you figure Ted or someone else would be the one to walk up and console him.
Yeah.
And it ends up being the guy who probably, you know, we don't really get into too much of his past, but probably can relate to some degree to what Jamie goes through. And they're both, of course, like nemesis, you know, too. I mean, they're always like fighting with each other. And so it's like the last person you expect. No Weddings and a Funeral is another episode from season 2, which is really good. But and this will lead into our next one, our next topic we'll talk about, which is this also includes the Nate heel turn, which I thought was really interesting and was very unexpected because of the fact that Nate was, and this show does this. There are so many like understated characters that end up becoming major characters, and it's almost like it sneaks up on you. It just happens, and you don't know how it happens, but it happens. And so that's why I went with season 2 for my favorite episode. Very hard because there are so many, but I'm going to go with the episode Sunflowers, which is the episode where this is in season 3, episode 6, where the team goes to Norway. And basically they have kind
Amsterdam?
I'm sorry, they go to Amsterdam. You're correct. Sorry, it says Keely leaves for Norway to go see the Aurora Borealis with Jack, but you're right, they're in Amsterdam. Higgins and Will go to a jazz club, which was really funny.
Well, because of the whole lead up, they didn't nothing about the jazz club. Like Higgins just keeps gleefully talking about going to the red light district, and you're like,
this family man. Higgins has been kind of a straight up, son of a gun, right?
Because I'm like, I remember me and my wife were like, we don't want to see this.
Yes,
we don't want to see Higgins getting higgy with it. Like that's not gonna. Nobody wants that.
No.
And then taking along the young Kit man, who I forget his name, who was another Will.
Yes.
Fantastic recurring gimmick of always being in the boot room.
Yes.
When big discussions are happening, they pan over and he's just over there. And it becomes such a running gag by the 3rd season.
Oh,
Roy's
my
like,
gosh.
Roy's like, missed a good one as he comes walking in. It's like one of my favorite recurring jokes of the entire show.
Yeah. The other great gimmick was Roy, who is training Jamie, and then basically Jamie turning around and teaching Roy how to ride a bike, and going to see. I think they went to see a couple of the what do you call them with the
windmills?
Windmills, thank you. But just the whole sequence of Roy learning how to ride a bicycle is just absolutely hysterical.
Oh yeah. Well, and then we also get to see Jamie's mom and stepdad.
Yes, that is right.
That whole thing, that's.
And
then of course Ted.
Yes, we have Ted, and who believes he has taken some sort of drugs from Beard, and thinks he's hallucinating, but in fact ends up at a American restaurant of all places in Amsterdam to discover total football.
Yes.
And while watching an old Chicago Bulls basketball game, and has a vision of all of this. This is also where Colin kind of basically comes out to Trent Krim, who is with the team. I mean, there's just so many great things that happen in this episode with all the characters.
It's insane how much they packed into that episode.
It
really
is. It absolutely is. And then, of course, we have to end the episode with everyone feeling better than where they were at the start. Not to mention Coach Beard showing up as Piggy Stardust, which had to be one of the greatest costumes. And Ted just kind of looks at him like, all right.
Nothing is unexpected. Like, nothing is going to phase Ted when it comes to Coach Beard.
Not at all.
He's seen some stuff, which we get then later on, like
my gosh,
Beard's monologue to Nate.
Oh, yes.
That got way heavier than I had thought it was going to.
Yes.
But no, that was one of those episodes that just, and let's not forget, that's also where Rebecca meets.
Yes.
I don't even remember the dude's name.
I forget.
She didn't even find out his name, anyways. So I mean,
no.
But I mean, that whole thing where she falls into the canal.
Yep.
That
whole standing in a bike lane.
Yeah. Holy crap! There was a whole lot in that episode.
There was a ton.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was a great one. It was a great one.
And the fact that we're talking about it and realizing all that, like that is such a great writing, editing, directing.
Yep. To
make all that fit and not feel like, like I was just forced to watch this at gunpoint.
Absolutely.
Great episode. Good choice. And of course, am I right? Honorary mention goes to Beard After Hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. That is such a bat spit insane episode and so entertaining to watch. And
every time I thought like, okay, it's going to end now, right?
Yeah.
Like things are going to even out.
Yeah. I love
we
how
go deeper down the rabbit hole, man.
I love how there's that one sequence where he follows this lady back to her place, and you think there's going to be some hanky panky or something, and
Shenanigans, if you will.
Her husband shows up,
Ballyhoo,
who kind of to me looks like a roided up version of Roy Kent a little bit. Like there was an awful lot similar between the two of them.
but he looks like one of those dudes who's like, if you're not in the world's strongest man competition, like you just missed it.
Yeah.
And then the fact at the end of it, he rides away on a Razor scooter. And that's
absolutely.
That is honestly like the 20th weirdest thing in that episode.
Oh,
like, I don't even know if it actually breaks the top 20. Yes. I might be generous there, but that is like one of the most normal things in the episode.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But that leads us to one of the turns that I don't know that we were really expecting in all of this, which is the full on. What are your thoughts on the Nate heel turn? I didn't see it coming, but I don't know. Like it started to become kind of obvious toward the end of the season. He was starting to snap at things, and he was starting to get a little snippy and way into himself and that sort of thing. And but the way it ended, where he was now coaching this other team, and and the way he left Ted and what he said to him, and the saddest part of it all is everything he was saying to Ted, you knew in your head was really directed at his dad. It was everything that he felt about how his father made him feel. And Ted just took it. He didn't fight it. He didn't argue it. He just listened. And Nate just stormed out, and he tears down the believe sign, and there's just a lot that feels like is falling apart, around this situation. And so, but I also love the I didn't notice this at first. When I went back and watched the series again, when they start episode 1, season 2, there's a close up. I think it's either on the back of Nate's head or a close up on his face, and that's how the season ends. And he went from being dark haired to being totally gray.
Yeah.
And like just kind of changing. So it was just a very interesting kind of symmetry to that season and what happened there. But I liked it, if only because of what it sets up in season 3. You know what I mean? Like, I think, in some ways they had to do it, because I don't know that the whole them versus Rupert thing was really a hook. Rupert was there. He was kind of annoying, but I don't know that he was really a compelling antagonist. He was just kind of there.
I see. Here's the thing. I think he is, but I think he's an antagonist that is almost like he is the Rock.
Okay.
In the recent heel, Cody Roman feud,
the final boss.
You can't have him all the time, and he had to go away at some point. Like you needed other stuff to kind of feed into that.
Yeah.
We'll get more into this in the characters portion of our show, but the heel turn I think was needed, and it's personal. Because we already kind of, in a way, we resolved a little bit of the personalness with Rupert, and then again, it comes back. But you needed something that would really dig at Ted, because the whole Rupert thing, Ted had kind of licked that a little bit,
Oh yeah.
So now you needed something that was really leveled at Ted, because you've removed Rebecca as the heel, or the kind of undercover heel, and you've kind of not necessarily conquered Rupert, but you've put him off to the side. Like you've embarrassed him a little bit. You kind of needed someone like Nate. You needed someone to be the betrayer. You needed a Judas. You needed someone to betray Ted, who is like as close to a Christ-like figure as you're going to find in this merry band of misfits.
Right.
Right. So yeah, it made sense. And this idea of it almost becomes like, well, what if Judas betrayed Jesus, but Jesus didn't end up getting crucified? What happens then? Like, how would they coexist, bumping into each other around town? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like would Judas go off and start his own competing ministry? Well, in this one, he kind of does. He gets his own team. Like it is this weird way of doing it, but it totally made sense.
Yeah.
But it made sense also because they they dehumanized Nate a little bit, and then they slowly rehumanized him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they never completely dehumanized him, but they dialed the volume down enough so that you could, okay, I really dislike this guy enough, because it's tough to dislike Nate, you know, because he's even at his most heel, like he was still kind of bumbling and falling all over himself. So they managed to not completely detach that, so it was easier to redeem him and kind of then bring him back around.
I liken his character to a boomerang. You know, he flew off into an extreme area, and then in season 3, you see him coming back. You know, you see him try to run with the likes of Rupert and his circle, and there's just there was a line that Nate just couldn't cross around that, and then you know, you see his romance with Jade, who he had, you know, clearly had feelings for back in season 2. You know, trying to just book a table at the restaurant, you know, start to grow, and you see him soften, and then you know, I think one of, you know, again, one of many very emotional scenes was I think it was, let me find it. It was in season 3.
Was it Nate with his dad?
It was. I just want to find the episode first.
That was rough.
International Break, episode 10. This is the one where Rebecca has probably one of the greatest monologues of all time, dressing down all the other owners and telling the story about Rupert's rise and everything. I mean, it was just, it was so great. And the whole time Nate's playing violin through the whole thing, which apparently the actor is a trained violinist. He performed that on his own. That was his live performance of that song.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
But then
look at you with the trivia, sir.
Dude, I'm
usually, that's my gimmick.
I was a Lasso head big time when we were watching it. So
Lasso head?
Well, you know, I
Is
was
that
a
really
fan.
the term?
I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go here.
Sure.
But that whole scene where his dad comes in and you know, can tell something's not right with him, and they have that heart to heart, and he, you know, and he apologizes to him, but he explains to him why, you know, he tries to help him understand what he was trying to do for him. And it was just, as a parent, it was a very, you know, that monologue of his connected with me, because there is that sense of, as parents, you're trying to do the right thing for your kid. And then you don't realize what it's really doing to them, you know, and I could identify with that, because in my own life, I'm sure I've done that to my kids without realizing that I was doing it. And, you know, I've had conversations with them now that they're more grown and that sort of thing. But, and, you know, we've come to an understanding around some things too, but at the same time, you know, I love the fact, because I didn't know where it was going with his dad. I thought his dad was just going to be this aloof, arrogant sort of man. And to see him come in and just say, son, I see that you're broken. I see that something isn't right. You know, whatever you do what makes you happy. You know, like, that's what I want for you. And you know, I just thought, you know, again, it was just, they've had so many like super emotional like moments in the series. And that was just yet another like beautiful scene of forgiveness and empathy and transparency. That was just done perfectly. I mean, the show executes these scenes like flawlessly. It's really incredible.
Well, because it tapped into something universal in that.
Yeah.
And again, it's weird because I just watched this part of this Paul Heyman documentary today when he because the whole pardon me for diverging into wrestling yet again. I shouldn't even apologize. That's just what we do.
It's what we do. Why are you apologizing, man? Come on.
But the Paul Heyman documentary starts off with him saying, "I am the schmuck son of two extraordinary people." And then you go through the entire thing, and towards the end, he's talking about his children, and other people that have worked with him are talking about his children and how Paul has changed as a father now in work and all that. And comes back to Heyman, and he says, "Now I'm not only the schmuck son of two extraordinary people, I am the conduit to the next generation." He says, "Because my children will be more extraordinary than I ever will be." And I just find that amazing because you look at what Paul Heyman has done, like in terms of like someone in their field, their chosen profession. It's really hard to find someone who has been as influential and revolutionary and had an impact the size of a Paul Heyman in your chosen vocation. That's really tough to do. And the way that he expresses that and the way that he expresses it in his Hall of Fame speech and other times is, it really is the way that I think most parents think about their children. Our hopes, our dreams, our prayers for our children are so outsized, and we tend to inflate all of that because it is our hope. I think most parents just hope that our children will be better than us, that we can somehow correct some of the wrongs in ourselves, or at least keep our children from making the same mistakes that we have made.
Yeah.
And become more than us.
Yes.
Yep.
Because
that immediately was like watching that. I'm like, I know I've done this, because I want my daughter to do better than me. And I think that is something that taps into that bit for anyone watching this with kids. That's going to hit on a certain level.
Oh, yeah.
And they do that with a lot of things. Like there's a lot of things throughout this show that they manage to tap into it, and they find a way into that it makes it personal without getting too far into the weeds. And again, just fantastic writing, and also, the way it's acted out, of course, is extraordinary as well. But it starts with like, how do we get down to this subject, and how do we make this something that is going to touch a lot of people?
Yep.
And damn if their batting average isn't real high on this show. Holy smokes.
Well, and just to kind of close out the heel, like I'm sorry, have you given your thoughts on the heel turn yet, or have I just been rambling about it?
No, I kind of gave my thoughts before.
When we get to season 3, I found it really interesting. There wasn't this high built up crescendo that they go to for Nate to apologize. It's this very understated scene where Ted walks in, scares the crap out of Nate because he's just staring at the wall. Basically tells
Which
Nate...
is very Nate.
Oh, absolutely. And then Nate goes to apologize, and Ted's just... Because I watched this scene just before we started recording, and Nate goes to apologize, and Ted's just like, you don't have to say anything. Don't worry about it. And he he's like, I have to say this. You need to let me say this. And the way that scene just played, like, it wasn't like this massive buildup, it was just this understated scene where, and I agree with some of the comments on YouTube for this clip that I was watching, because some folks were saying it's like all the work had already been done for the forgiveness to be there. That's why this scene works so well. Like it's not the big aha moment that they bang you over the head with. It's they were, he was part of the organization again. He earned his way back in. Ted, wants him back. He cares about him still, of course, and forgives him. And he gives him that and it was just so beautifully done.
Well, part of it is that Ted has already forgiven him.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it goes into that whole idea of like, forgiveness is something that you give to yourself. Like that's a gift that you give to yourself. Forgiving another person is something that you're doing for yourself, because otherwise not forgiving someone, was it Winston Churchill said, that it's like trying to drink poison, trying to kill the other person by you drinking the poison.
Yeah.
It's Ted had already forgiven him, obviously, from his actions throughout this, and
the
way that he had addressed Nate and all that, and taken the high road every single time. It was more about Nate forgiving himself. Like he needed to go through that. He needed to say it and get it out there in order for him to then forgive himself. And in a way, being self-aware enough, like, I know you've already forgiven me, but I have to do this. I have to, in some ways, humiliate or prostrate. However, like, like when people humble themselves.
Prostate.
That's the only problem with going to the vet for your physical is you get and they take out the thermometer.
Oh. Hello.
When's the beep coming? then the exhilaration of like beep.
Are we still on this? Get back to the show, for crying out loud. This is some proctologist 101 here.
I'm just going by what I see for my cat. She's so happy. Anyways.
Oh, good God.
But it's like when people like literally fall on their face, like if you're bowing, like not just a low bow, but you like literally are down on your knees and you're just falling on your face sort of thing. Like that idea of surrender.
Yeah.
Like that's what he is doing. Like he's like, I have to do this. I have to go to this level in order for me to feel like I have paid what needs to be paid. And in the meantime, Ted's just like, yeah, okay, whatever you need to do, bud, you know?
Well, and I found it interesting too, that it was, this was true kind of the last few episodes where Ted doesn't talk as much. Like everyone else is doing a lot more talking. He's just kind of there shepherding things through. And, you had brought up the scene with Beard and Nate. And I thought it was really fitting that the dialogue about the forgiveness comes from Beard.
Yeah.
And not from Ted. And how much more meaningful it was coming from him as someone who Ted had forgiven himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am the walking example. The reason I am devoted to this man the way that I am is because of, this is what he did for me. I mean, I'm not trying to get all biblical here, but in a lot of ways, Beard is kind of a little bit like John the Baptist to Ted's Jesus. You know what I mean?
Well,
a little bit.
The thing is, like, for a show that really, for a character who does have definitely those aspects of, literary Christ-likeness.
Yeah.
But also shies away from religiosity, really, in most ways.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting, like when you just realize how prevalent that type of messianic, forgiveness, grace, how these permeate through literature, through storytelling, and how this is a universal. Like going back to when you said like it's a Star Wars, story arc. Well, I mean it's 3-act structure. It's the way Shakespeare used to write plays, and the second act is always the one where everything just goes straight to hell. And it has to, because otherwise, like, how are you going to come up for the third act? I mean, it's the movies that don't have that happen that are so like, whoa, this is unusual, because it's going back to the oh my gosh, Kurt Vonnegut, like this shape of stories. Like stories have shape, and he demonstrates it. And it's like, son of a bitch, that's right. Like, yes, the way this works, and it is what we enjoy, and that's why, even though it is a well trod upon path, as we go back to with wrestling, as we've gone back to with TV, as we've gone back to with movies, it comes down to the characters.
Yes,
because you're going on this same trip. Like I can go back and forth on a road trip from here to California, and I can do it with people who annoy the absolute living spit out of me, or I could do it with like you, or I could do it with my wife. I could do it with, someone that I'm completely intrigued with, that I would annoy the living hell out of them by asking them 1,000,001 questions. It's who you take the journey with, and those characters are who you're going on the journey with.
Yeah.
So that idea of like, well, it's the same old story. Well, yeah, but if the characters are crap, well, yeah, then of course you're going to be like, the story's crap. The story's about the same as every other story you've ever seen.
Right.
But the characters make it worthwhile. In this case, the characters are so vivid, and I mean, that's totally a great comparison. And the idea of the whole, like, Nate had already been forgiven. Yeah, you can tie that into, I'm sure, not just Christianity. You could tie that into several different religions. But there is that idea of grace and all that embodiment, and it makes it work. And that's what also makes Ted this character that I don't think we're the only ones that watch this show and are like, man, I've really got to step up my game just as a human being walking on planet Earth. I've got to try and be more like that. It's silly, but hey, whatever does it. And I love in that Beard monologue how it's almost like, you think you betrayed him?
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, like,
let me tell you something, brother.
Like, not only did I betray him, I did it several times and in very personal ways, and this and that. Like, that whole thing, like that was Beard earned his money throughout the show.
Oh yeah.
His story cachet. There, it was just like, this is the thesis of Beard right here. You know, it was fantastic.
This is the way. Baby.
Yes, if you will.
All right. I actually moved a section because I felt it was more appropriate further down. But we're going to move on to who did we think were the best characters?
Oh, geez.
And you know, we've talked a little bit already about some of these. We can fly through this a little bit. But
well, I love how I started out with 3 because it started out with best character.
Top 6, baby.
I was like, all right, I can't pick one. I'll pick 3. And I intentionally excluded Ted because that's so obvious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then the man they call Tim, I look at the outline as we're about ready to start. He had gone to 6. I was like, you got to just double up on me. I see how it is.
It's a murderer's row, man. It's so, really hard.
May I suggest
yes.
we just kind of run down each of our lists, and then we can talk about, because there's some that are definitely in common. Then we can kind of veer off into the ones that are unique to us. That'd be appropriate.
Absolutely.
You know what? I'll give you the honors, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to go backwards here. So number 6 for me is my top 6 here. Number 6 for me was Trent Krim
from
The Independent.
Thank you.
Trent Krim, once again, a character who you think is kind of a throwaway, who's going to disappear and never return.
With what looks like the worst wig in the world, but I'm sure that's his real hair.
Yeah,
but it's like that's got to be a wig, right? Like, did they buy that at the Spirit Halloween store? Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, the whole scene with him with Ted and Trent at the Indian restaurant, where he's going there. I believe the cab driver had invited him, to try his family's establishment, and when they start eating the food and they're trying to talk, I mean, that whole back and forth was hysterical.
Hang on a second, we have an intruder. She tried to sneak in.
How?
She's like army crawling. She's over here, like down on the floor.
Wait, did she come in through the back door, or did she come in from the side?
She must have come into the door.
Oh, okay. I didn't see
that door, right? Oh my gosh! Now she's Gollum.
See, next to my Zencaster tab is my Ted Lasso Wikipedia tab. So I was reading as I was talking, and I wasn't paying attention. So
well, she done snuck in. I felt the floor shake a little bit. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kaylin's Comedy Corner. Do we have a joke, or we just have an observation on life today?
Psychology is painful.
Yeah,
truer words have never been spoken.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Took one semester of that in college, and that was quite enough.
Oh my goodness!
Like, I love how he asks, like, "Oh, you know what? This class is so important to know why people do what they do. What's going on inside their head? Like, I don't know. I don't want to know."
Actually, you do want to know because you want to be an author. So that's kind of what the whole gig is.
I'm already doing pretty good right now. It's like
you're doing good right now, but you can be doing gooder.
I just hate this class.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
You got to work on your English.
So, any jokes or thoughts aside from you don't like psychology class?
I don't know. Wait, did I tell you the bee joke? No, wait. We already. I think I did. I feel like I did.
Does this require a profanity dispensation?
I don't know. It's the one where a guy goes to a beekeeper and he says, "I ordered a dozen bees," and I really didn't tell you this one.
It seems vaguely familiar, but maybe not. I don't know.
But it's basically a guy went to the beekeeper and he said, "Hey, I ordered a dozen bees." But when the guy gave him the bees, there was actually 13. He's like, "Wait, you gave me one extra." And the dude's like, "No, that's a freebie."
You had, but you know what? I enjoyed it again. Just like it was the first time I heard it. I like that.
There we go.
Very good. Let's see here. It's 9:41. You must be going to bed. All right.
It's 9:41 and you're watching Perspectives.
Gosh.
Sorry. I had to do it.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Kaylin's Comedy Corner. All right, get to bed. Get some sleep. Good night. Oh, boy. Guess what?
I don't know. What? She's off camera. Oh, she's got the kazoo.
Have you washed that thing at all? I rinsed it. Okay, I guess that's better than nothing. All right.
Oh, what was the new one that I learned recently?
Oh my gosh. All right, you need to get to bed. I need to get back to the show here. We're hurtling towards hour 2. You know what? I'll tell you what.
It is the witching hour, folks.
When you
kazoos are flying.
When you develop a Taylor Swift on kazoo tribute, we'll do that.
Come on, it doesn't get better than that.
Eye of the Tiger?
Yeah.
That was okay.
Seriously.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. All right. Good night. Love you. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that was interesting.
Yes, it was.
Psychology, not so great.
No.
Kazooing, wonderful. Oh, what's he going to play on the soundboard?
Nothing. I'm putting in an edit point, so just proceed.
Oh, okay. Was something said that shouldn't have been said?
Maybe. All right.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
So yeah, Trent Krim.
All right, number
from
6.
The Independent.
Trent Krim from The Independent. Although I have to admit, one of the funnier points is when he stands up and says, Trent Krim, and everyone around him says, from The Independent.
That was lovely.
That was fantastic. So Trent Krim, number 6, just a character who over time just kind of like them all, ingratiated himself to us, began to work his way into Ted's inner circle without even like that wasn't his mission. It was just kind of what organically happened through the storytelling and through the show. And so I had to call him out as definitely a character worthy of the list. Number 5, Jamie Tart, because much like Nate and Roy, a character of growth, and even though he still kind of falls back on his foolish ways at times, he is growing, learning, and one of the more touching moments at the end of the finale was seeing him and his father trying to repair that relationship, and that I thought was really cool. That was really cool.
I would agree.
And I think his growth on the team helped prepare him emotionally, probably, and mentally for that. Whereas if he was still kind of the arrogant little twit that we see at the beginning of the series, I don't know that it would have gone so well. So
yeah. Actually, can I dive in? Can we alternate for a couple of these? So that
sure. Go for it.
So my number 5 was Rupert, because you need to have a heel, and quite honestly, he was a delightful, just smarmy, charming, but such an a-hole that you're just like, yes, I want to see this guy brought low. Mm-hmm. I need to see him brought low, and I applaud them for waiting until the 3rd season to really have him go full on, like to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, before that, he's always around an 8.5, 9. Mm-hmm. But season 3, towards the end, they really just put the pedal down and let Rupert be a complete slime ball. Even though they kind of gave him a little bit of a moment where you're like, oh, like after that, the big speech with Rebecca, and I forget what the guy's name is, but he was a great recurring character. He was only on the show like twice, but he was trying to form the Super League, and he ends up throwing the catering all over everybody.
Yes.
And so Rebecca and Rupert have that kind of moment of whatever, and you're like, oh, maybe he's coming around, and no, he's
right.
not. So I felt like he did his job. Like that character did his job of just kind of being that overall overarching big bad that's always lurking in the background and just looking to just swoop in and be a complete douche and then swoop back out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the name of that guy too, because he was a great character.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, where is he? Edwin Akufo.
Yes.
A petty Ghanaian billionaire who buys Rasa Casablanca and tries to convince Sam to sign with the team.
And I love how like that first time that he appears, like his helicopter lands on the field and all this, and then they call back to it like, How are we going to practice with the helicopter here? And it's like the next day. Like he just left the helicopter there.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Who you got at number 4, sir?
So my number 4 is Sam Obisanya.
Sam Obisanya.
He starts out as a bullied and not very thought highly of footballer on the team, and turns into really the heart and soul of the team, if you will. You know, really just a just a good spirit, and tries
not to mention a smooth ladies man.
He is. Opens up his restaurant in the local area, and not without drama around that, but just it was great to see a character like his. He takes a couple of stands from a political standpoint during the series when he sees things that his home country is doing that he doesn't agree with, and that leads to the team.
The main sponsor of the team doing things in his home country.
Oh, thank you. That's what it was. Thank you.
Dubai Air, I think it was, that also co-owned another team that was polluting, I believe.
Yeah.
In his home country, and
but the team rallies around him for that. Where they put the black tape over the Dubai Air name. And his father came for an episode, and that was a great episode too. Yeah, so which
was funny because as we were watching that, Kim's like, "Where have I seen him before? Where have I seen him?" And he was the guy from the live action Cinderella. That's where we recognized him from.
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, I love that guy. I wish he was in more. How come he's not in more things?" And then I'm like, "Well, he's probably been in like 100 movies, and I just haven't watched them."
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's my number 4, Sam Obisanya. What is yours, sir?
My number 4 is Higgins.
Oh, of course.
My gosh.
Wait a minute.
I love that tick where you'd be like, get an uncomfortable moment, just like a cat going to hurl a hairball or something.
And I forget, is it season 2 or season 3 where his office moves into like the tiny closet?
Well, it's moving everywhere because the therapist has taken over his office. So he's in the weight room. He's here. Right. He's there. Like,
he's here. He's there. He's everywhere.
Yeah. See, it all goes back to Roy. No, he was great because I loved how like his character changed, but yet didn't change.
Yeah.
Like he was the yes man left over from Rupert. Rebecca had disdain for him, but was like, I got to have somebody. Right. And then that whole thing came out between them, and then he really kind of became, in a weird way, like one of the gang. Like he already kind of had become one of the gang with Ted and everything. But when it finally came around with Rebecca, it was just like this moment of like, okay, good. And arguably Higgins is a third tier character in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that moment of like, I'm so glad that that's righted now with a third tier character.
Yeah.
You're doing something right in a show.
Mm-hmm.
When you care that much about like, someone who's not involved in the A or the B storyline most of the time. He's down C or D storyline.
Yeah.
When you're glad that person made good, you've done a great job with that character. You've done a great job with the story. And I love the fact that his wife in the show is actually his wife in real life.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, that is so kind of cool.
Yep.
Like, again, like, damn, could this show get any more friggin' wholesome? I mean, crap. Ted's making biscuits. I mean, it drives me nuts.
And
he's a bass player.
Yes.
And a damn good bass player too. Man's playing upright and getting filthy on that thing. I'm like, son of a mother. I would love to be able to play upright. I just know that I do not have the ear and the talent for it at the moment. But I'm watching this dude. I'm like, son of a bitch. Now I've got to live up to Higgins. Like, forget Victor Wooten and Jocko. Like, I just want to get as good as him. I don't know if he actually plays bass or not, if they fake that, but still.
Yeah.
No, great character.
We haven't said this yet, but at least on air, but it is funny how Ted Lasso starts off as kind of like a major league ripoff a little bit, with the powerful female businesswoman wanting to tank the team and
the general manager. Yes.
And that was Higgins, right?
And it so comes to that point. Like they just move the moment at the end of the movie where he stands up and she's like, sit down. And he's like, they just moved that moment earlier.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, they did. No, great pick for number 4.
Yeah.
My number 3.
And my number 3.
Hey, baby. Coach Beard.
Coach Beard, baby.
Gotta go with Coach Beard.
What a coach, baby.
We've talked quite a bit at his snappy, witty retorts. The way he, in a lot of ways, is kind of Ted's intelligence, if you will, in the beginning, where Ted knows absolutely nothing about soccer, and Beard is having to fill him in on it all.
Well, I love that book that he's reading, and as the seasons go on, he just keeps getting. There's more tabs. There's more annotations in that book. It's more annotations than blank pages at the end, I imagine. Like I would picture you open that up and it's just all highlighted, but I love that they just kept coming back to him just reading that book just constantly.
Yes. Yeah. And between that and his constant up and downs with Jane and his just and then his kooky adventures as we talked about in Beard After Dark. And
what about in season 3 when they're all at Hannah at Rebecca's house and he walks into the kitchen?
Oh God.
Did anybody really ever need to see Coach Beard in a thong? No, we didn't. No, we did not. And yet the character it fits.
If there was a perfectly bomb you wanted to drop in the middle of, oh my God, did Ted and Rebecca just sleep together? It was Coach Beard walking out in a thong to basically say, holy crap.
This is how we're going to diffuse this situation.
Oh, good Lord.
Give everyone else something to go.
Yeah. Or as Higgins would do.
Well, no, it really was. I don't think it was that. It was literally like it was a choking sound. Like I can't do it justice.
I can't either.
Oh my gosh. So
I try. All right. So that was both of our number 3s. Our number 2. So my number 2 is Rebecca, who starts off as the vindictive owner who is trying to basically destroy the team to spite her ex-husband. But over time, basically, comes to and Hannah Waddingham just plays the character brilliantly, like
kills it.
The whole dart scene where he's kind of telling a little bit of his life story to Rupert as he's slowly closing in on kind of winning this bet that they made. And the line when he talks about how he would play darts with his dad up until his dad's death, and you kind of see the look on her face where, she starts to kind of realize there's a little more going on with Ted than just being this kind of hick from America.
That is really kind of I think there's some seed sown, but that's the first time you actually get there's a baby face turn coming. This for sure. Like this is the first movement in it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, when he has his first, panic attack and she's the one that's there when she could have been the one that could have, taken advantage of it, maybe called a press person to kind of take a picture of her bumbling coach to really sink him. She shows compassion. And then later on the end of season 1, when that face turn, starts to happen, when she goes and apologizes to him, again, forgiveness on display in this show, and Ted shows her the grace and forgiveness to just understand that she's hurting, and he understands the hurt of divorce as well. The way they just kind of talk through that is just incredible. I mean, it's great writing. It's very thoughtful exposition, and just a great way to kind of continue the character development. And so her character goes from this in a lot of ways driven by revenge to someone who then is wanting to build a strong club, who is looking to build herself back up after being decimated by her divorce, and finding hope, finding love. We get that scene at the end of the finale where Keeley proposes an AFC women's soccer team, and you can see from the look on her face she's all for it, and just a great character all around, and just hysterical. She has some very dramatic moments, and then she has some absolutely hysterical moments, and then she has some really amazing moments. The funeral episode where she sings "Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down," but in one of the most heartbreaking ways
Yes.
that you ever thought a song like that could be sung in.
Never thought I'd get a Rick roll that would bring a tear to your eye.
You got a little dusty in the room.
I mean, sheesh.
And not the kind of, if you will, dusty. But
no. But they would have appreciated that, baby. You draw them right in, right there. That's going to draw some money, baby.
Oh boy,
that's so good right there, baby. Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful. Dream couldn't have done it better.
And then, not to mention, the monologue we talked about toward the end of season 3, where that billionaire is trying to build a super league and basically create something that's really just for the rich and really take soccer away from the working class, and the way she just kind of dresses them all down. I mean, it was such a great monologue for a character, and all with that just amazing violin music playing in the background of it all. So no, just all in all, just an absolutely wonderful character. And she goes from being the one that wants to persecute Ted to, at the very end, being the one who doesn't want to let him go, trying to find some way to keep him with the club, but understanding that life is pulling him in a different direction. And so yeah, I have Rebecca as my number 2. Who is your number 2?
Well, actually, I'm just going to flip flop because we have 1 and 2 kind of the same but different. So yes. Rebecca was actually my top favorite character.
Nice.
And I mean, I'm in both movies, literature, and real life. I'm a fan of strong women. I think Rebecca to me was so important to this series because if Rebecca doesn't ring true, none of this works. I mean, obviously Ted has to be Ted and all that, but if Ted doesn't have someone to play off of just to start with, if Ted doesn't have an equal, then it really is just the Ted Lasso show. And in this, Hannah Waddingham's just mere presence in a room was enough to anchor and to be a foil for Ted Lasso. The character, just her sheer physicality. I mean, 1, she's beautiful. 2, she's just I can't describe it. She is just a presence. There is something about her and the way she inhabited that character that when she is in that room, it's there's no doubt. You don't lose track of the fact that she is in the scene. And that is important in a show like this where it could very easily get redundant and very much oh yeah, and Ted and Ted and Ted. You need to have at least one someone else in that who is going to occupy a scene and you're never going to kind of lose track of where they're at. And she did that. I think she played such an important role. Her arc throughout this and the way that she interacted with other characters, the way she interacted with Keeley was another example that we talked about in the pre-production meeting, and how her relationship with her changed, and how you watch this woman who is solely bent on revenge and very alone gain this friend who you look at those two and you're there's no way in hell these two people would ever be friends.
Yeah.
Unless these particular set of dominoes happen to fall and they it's either this or they get stuck in an elevator for 6 hours. That's it. There's the only 2 combination of times this would happen. And even the relationship she ends up having with Higgins, and then what happens with her Amsterdam man, who I have no idea what his flippin' name is. Oh my gosh, my wife was so mad after that episode when he didn't show up until the finale. She was "Where is he?" She was, oh my gosh, she was ready to grab a pitchfork and a torch and march on Jason Sudeikis' house.
Oh my!
She was mad. She was big mad. And then the finale, and she's I'm see? Oh God, thank God, because I might wind up with a knife in my chest out of anger. Again, fan of strong women. My wife has very strong opinions. And God love her for that. But the character itself, and part of this bleeds into Hannah Waddingham as a person bleeds into this, because through this process you apparently say Ted Lasso, and all of a sudden now my Instagram feed while we were watching this turned into like 50% like Hannah Waddingham videos, which was weird. But like the time that she was at some sort of gala or something, and one of the photographers, she's like at one of those points where you stand, you pose, and everyone does their thing, and then you can go off. And some photographer yelled out, "Show us a bit of leg," and she literally leaned forward, wagged her finger at him, which has got to be quite a sight because Hannah Waddingham is 5'10", flat-footed. In the heels she was in, she's over 6 feet and probably towering. She's standing on stairs, and this dude is probably some like 5'7" numbnuts anyways. So she's towering over this dude's like, no, you would not say that to a man or this and that. So if you don't, change your attitude, then I can just leave. And then 2 seconds later, she just walks the F off. And at that point, I was like, I like the cut of this woman's jib. Forget the character. Like, I like her. Like, I want to hang out with her and have let's pop open a bottle of scotch and let's chat about a few things. Hannah, I have questions. I think that without her, this show really doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think without Hannah Waddingham specifically, because they had a tough time casting, like they really could not find her. And then they brought her in, and immediately I think Jason Sudeikis is like, yep, that's Rebecca. We found her. And I don't think the show would have worked without her specifically, or an equally strong presence. I think she's so important to this show, the character and obviously the actor who played her.
100%.
And obviously number one, and my number two is
Roy Kent. He's here. He's
everywhere. Roy Kent. So great. Such a character who like changes, but yet doesn't change.
No.
There's an arc. His name. It almost feels like an arc that goes around back into a circle.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of never going to not be Roy Kent. Like no matter what he does. And there's something endearing about that I love. Man.
Brett Goldstein, what a character he's created, and what an iconic character, because he transcends the series. He's just such a funny character, and the situations they put him in, whether he's coaching a team of 9-year-olds, whether he's hanging out with his niece,
cussing them out.
Oh my gosh, yes. He's hanging out with his niece, and the niece has the swear jar, and he's, having to, control that, or, she's getting made fun of because of her breath, and he goes and hunts down finds the dentist and then the kid. And
what was the moment like when he's trying to stop swearing and he's like there with the teacher? He's like, fudge. Like literally does a fade in his voice in camera and comes back around. I'm like, that's good control right there. That's lovely.
Yeah. And, he goes from this loner character to, showing some heart in his own way. Like in season 1, I loved his, when he kind of, busts into the bar to dress down Jamie for some stuff that he said to, I think, Sam and Nate and stuff like that. And just the way he kind of like, he's like, oh, look at you drinking this. How pretty. And just kind of walks away. I mean, just in this Roy Kent FU sort of way, just like
just gravelly and this and that. And
yeah.
You know what I love about season 1, Roy Kent? Because I'll freely admit, if I was writing Roy Kent's season 1 arc, not only does Roy Kent have kind of that moment where he gets to be the hero at the end, like he becomes the hero at the very end.
Yeah.
Like there is a redemption of the old dog getting one last ride. He's the one who scores the goal to this and that and the other. Like it would have been way over the top.
Yeah.
The way that they played him as the guy who is on the back nine, he is on the back end of his career, and he doesn't really have a severe uptick. It's not like he finds the fountain of youth and plugs into some of that old time magic and anything. Like he comes out and he plays, but yet it's only momentary.
Yeah.
And I have an appreciation for that. Again, like just as a sports fan growing up, I remember the last gasps of Larry Bird. And I didn't get a chance to really see Prime Larry Bird that much, but I specifically remember. I think it was like 90. It's 90 something because it was definitely like not lean Larry Bird. And the thick black like Converse like dad looking shoes. Larry Bird, but it was the double overtime game against the Trailblazers where he had that runner at I think it was the end of regulation to put it into overtime. It was like a run. It was like a 2 and a prayer. And I think he scored something like 40, close to 50 points. And it was like kind of his last gasp game. Like that was the last time you got to see like Larry Bird managed to turn back the clock. And it's the for the love of the game sort of thing. Like, Billy Chappell is turning back the clock. Is there one more time and all that. They didn't go full on that. That's what I would have done for Roy Kent. And they didn't. And there was some realness and there's also heartache that you can see kind of live on for that character until he finally realizes like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken,
I love that.
Wasn't it after that game where he goes to Keeley and he just kind of breaks down?
I think so. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, which, we never would have expected to see.
Well, because he realizes that he can't play anymore.
Right.
He's done.
Yeah.
Like he's literally done. Like before that, he's like, I'm trying to do, and that he's like, ugh.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yep.
Yeah. No. And so many other moments, like just watching him trying to be a commentator, like a talk.
Oh yeah. I was going to bring that up when he's on that show and the way he's just like,
and then
the other guys are just like, oh my God.
And then I love how the fact that like after he's gone, like the host after a while was like, I miss Roy. Because the former coach, the coach who gets fired, and I love this, how they fire the coach. Rebecca fires the coach at the beginning of episode 1.
Yes.
Season 1. And then they bring him back, not only as the talking head, but then they bring him back as the coach who takes over. I'm like,
yes.
This guy has got to be like, I thought I would just had a 1-day work.
Yep.
And you keep bringing me back. Like, all right, these checks keep clearing.
Yep.
Funny. Oh my gosh. But the fact that
but seeing him, kind of work his way into the Diamond Dogs was hysterical. Like he wanted to be a part of it, but he didn't want to be a part of it.
Yes.
Then
even at the end, like the discussion is like, that's it.
Yeah. The way he there was one episode where he's trying to coach up Jamie and he's just he's trying to get him to only be like prick Jamie, sorry, but to be that version of Jamie when they give him the signal and and the signal is the middle finger. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll go do that.
That was great. That was so good.
I love the interactions with him and his niece. I thought she was great.
What movie wasn't that Major League when that was the thing? Like when what's it? Who is it? The friggin' is it Tom Berenger?
Might have been
the catcher, and that is his signal. Like no, I think that's for Love of the Game when it's the middle finger is the brushback or something like that. Gosh, I'm gonna have to.
Feels like that's more of a Major League thing. That would be for Love of the Game.
I don't know because that was John C. Reilly as the catcher.
Oh, okay. Could be.
Anyways, John C. You know what? We need to do it. We need to do an entire show on John C. Reilly because
he is a national treasure.
I just rewatched Days of Thunder the other night.
Yeah,
because as you do after you finish a gig at like 1 a.m. and you're eating leftover empanadas.
Oh, jeez.
It's actually the perfect time to watch Days of Thunder, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to do that when it's like daylight. Just trust me.
No, you need to have the empanadas because they bring out, some of the, psychedelic visions.
Well, I'd already had a shower beer, so again, I was in the perfect state of mind. I was at the perfect state of mind. All right, I'm sorry. I've totally sidetracked our conversation now.
So my number one is Roy Kent as just one of the best characters. But there's all these characters are so great. I mean, doing this exercise is really difficult because there really isn't a wrong answer at the end of the day. They are all just great characters and had great character development throughout the series. All right, moving on. We talked about great characters, but we'll try to speed this along. Who's your series MVP, sir?
Oh gosh, you had to. this is the time I am going to throw in Ted, because obviously, you got to have Ted, but it's more than just he's the main character.
Mm-hmm.
His arc through the whole thing is what propels this.
Yeah.
Because they did end up putting Ted through hell.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to do as a writer, as someone who's had to write. Like, it is tough to put this character that your main character, the one that you're like, oh my gosh, and usually the main character, there is some portion of that main character that is inhabited by the author or the writer. There's a little bit in there, so you're like, oh, I got to take care of him. Like, no, you need to put that character through hell in order for this to be interesting. That's because we want to see them overcome. And yeah, the whole like do-gooder thing was great at the beginning because it was such a contrast to everyone else, culturally and just attitude-wise. But Ted went through some stuff, and it like
and Ted had not processed some stuff.
Yes, and the fact that he went through all of that, and came out the other end, is what drove that, because it was seeing how he would be able to walk that line of like still being this gracious, nice guy, and also dealing with all this stuff, and you realize that there is anger in there. There is this, and I loved how they I think he dropped like 2 F-bombs the entire show, but they were so judiciously
It had to be more than that, because he had that whole back and forth with his mom, and he said it more than twice.
Okay, well, maybe 2 instances is what I'm talking about.
Okay. But I mean, that was a great scene. I mean, the way that he was basically, the Ted from season 1 would not have talked to his mom that way, and would not have called her on the carpet. And, the growth you see in his character going through the therapy and, clearly talking with, was it Dr. Sharon, I think her name was?
I believe so, yes.
But yeah, I mean, just, having that be part of his character growth, like I said, is just something you don't see dealt with very often on a show, let alone a comedy show. I mean, let's not forget, I mean, Ted Lasso is not known as being a dramatic show. It is a comedy. And yet that comedy more deftly dealt with that topic than most dramas deal with it.
Yes.
If they deal with it at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to, there's very few, like, I think a lot of comedy, actually I think Alan Alda said it in one of his, in a movie, like, time, tragedy plus time equals comedy, and it's apropos that it would be Alan Alda saying that, because MASH was kind of one of those shows that really pioneered, common tragedy sort of thing. The reason I didn't reach back that far is I felt like Titus was a much better one-to-one comparison, and also recent. And it's not revolving around a war, which adds a whole other thing. But yeah, I think the therapy aspect was huge, and dealing with that idea of someone who kind of on a level knows they need help, but is scared to get help, and therefore doesn't want help, and is also scared that if they get help, it's going to change them. And I'll say for me, like, that is me. Like, I've been going to therapy for like 5 years now, and it's changed my life. And I was one of those cats who, like, I probably should have been in therapy back when I was in my 20s. I'm in my late 40s now. I probably should have been in therapy. Actually, no, I probably take out the probably. I should have been in therapy when I was in my 20s. I had a lot of stuff, even though I had a fantastic parents and all that stuff. I had a lot of stuff, and part of the reason was I didn't want help, because I'm like, oh, this is going to change who I am. I'm not going to be able to write anymore because, I'll take all this stuff away. It's all crap. So I can identify with that, like, that you kind of know in some way, like, I should deal with this stuff. Like, there's something in the back of your head that's like, warning, warning, warning. And your emotions start to become like the containment unit in the first Ghostbusters movie. Like, something bad's going to happen if the power goes out. If there's a disruption in service, we are all screwed. And at least for me, that resonated on such a level. And I don't think I'm the only one who has been in that place. So I think it's the way that they dealt with that was done so well, because again, and you're also trying to play this for a laugh, and that's again, that is a way that you can sometimes. That's why I believe comedians are some of the best truth tellers, because you can tell people some damn bone deep truth if you can make them laugh along with it. It's a little bit of it's that medicine that helps the sugar go down. No, I'm sorry, reverse that. It's the sugar that helps the medicine go down. And they did that so well here. And Ted drives that, and everything kind of, even though everyone else is getting therapy first, it's his avoidance of it that becomes kind of the story. Yeah. Anyways, I went off on a big ass tangent there for my MVP. And who are you going to go for your MVP, sir?
I'm actually going to go with Nate.
Yes.
While I agree with everything you said about Ted, and Ted is obviously the the main character of this story. For a lot of the reasons we've already kind of touched on, I just think Nate, is another one of those characters that makes the show. And, I don't think it's a mistake that, his forgiveness arc with Ted comes at the very end. And just seeing how he starts out as this quiet, unassuming hitman for the team. And
he's the first guy that Ted meets for the team.
Right.
And kind of like shocks him because he wants to know his name.
Yeah. Because he's used to not being treated well and being looked down upon by the players, and so Ted, just their relationship and the way that grows and the success that they see in season 1, and then the unfortunate kind of turn that comes with again, as we just talked about with Ted, Nate not really dealing with his stuff and projecting it onto Ted, as he's struggles with kind of being in the spotlight and his being recognized for something and letting it go to his head and not knowing how to deal with it. His whole journey, I think, is part of what makes the show great. And and it was one of those things, like you said, caring about how the outcome of some of these games and the way that's portrayed. But when that happens, there's kind of an anger you feel towards Nate for a while. And I think, it's exemplified through Coach Beard. And then you see, Beard extend the forgiveness branch, and then you see what happens with him and Ted. And we already talked about, his whole interchange with his father and what that does for him. And so, I just think, overall, I think your pick of Ted makes a lot of sense. I just think, having Nate as one of the antagonists, not the main antagonist, but one of the antagonists after being kind of the buddy to the protagonist, was kind of an interesting turn for them to make. And so,
I think I wouldn't say he's not the main protagonist in a way, to draw this back to Star Wars.
No, I said he's not the main antagonist.
I'm sorry.
He's one of the antagonists.
Yeah.
You're correct in saying Rupert's the main antagonist.
Well, ish. I'm actually going to go back a little bit on that, because to relate this back to Star Wars, Rupert's the Emperor. Nate kind of becomes Darth Vader in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is the one who has the closest link. It's almost like if Vader and Luke somehow managed to be buddies in A New Hope, which would be really awkward when you think about it. No, I would agree. Like, Nate is very important. And it is weird, like, because I think you could have a pretty good discussion of Ted, Nate, and Rebecca as the 3 most important characters. I think there's a really good case to be made for each of them. And I think in some ways it's always going to be a little subjective who throws who in there. Because I equally could have, I made it, in my favorite characters, I kind of made a case for Rebecca as the most important character, and then it was like, no, it's Ted. He's got his name on it, and I'm, I'd love to be cast in the next Jason Sudeikis project. Hey, aren't you? But no, I think that's an excellent pick, and well justified.
Thank you. All right, well, let's wrap this Sun Gun up, because we've gone long on this one, as we are ought to do.
We've gone longer than like 3 episodes of Ted Lasso. You could have watched the first 3 episodes instead of listening to us.
That's true. Series grade, and I kind of removed a section and kind of lumped it into this one. But what grade do you give the series, and what makes this series so damn good?
I love how you've completely gone off the grading scale. Like you're like me with Roman Reigns matches back in the day. I'm going to give this an A+ Infinity plus.
Oh, well, look at you.
No, A+. Because I'm going to stick to a strict grading scale. I don't know that I can pick one thing that makes this series so good.
Yeah.
I
think we've talked at length about a lot of things that make it good.
Yeah, I guess if I had to go with something that to kind of go to bring this full circle, it actually, and without getting too into the minutia of the world, because that's a whole other like 12 shows. This show kind of helps renew a little bit of my faith in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's sorely been wounded over the years. I think just naturally getting older, there's a reason why a lot of people become just old jerks.
Yeah.
You know, because you feel like your body is betraying you. The things are changing, and people are listening to music you don't like, and how come their hair is cut like that, and blah 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 blah. Along with just the times of our world, like my God, we just got past 9/11 not that long ago. 5 days ago, I was recording this, and since 9/11, I kind of was like, we talk about COVID as how sick I am of hearing unprecedented times. Like we've kind of been living in that since 9/11. Like this has been a total sea change in the way that we kind of grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of opportunities to become jaded.
Yeah.
And this show helped me pull me out of that for 45, 50 minutes at a time. And after watching 3 seasons of this, like I was like, okay, I'm really going to try. I'm going to try to believe in people. I'm going to try to really look at the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead and call me shallow and stupid or whatever. It's nothing no one's ever told me before. Or that I haven't told myself before. So, but there is that aspect that giving you that hope, like you said, in terms of like the Star Wars thing and giving you hope, but also just in kind of giving you a little bit of optimism, like a little bit of that Ted Lasso optimism rubs off on you. And a little bit of that, like, you know what, if someone hasn't surprised you yet, give them a little more time. They'll surprise you eventually, and just keep at it. If you really believe in someone, keep at it. Maybe they'll come back around,
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing just really sold it for me. Like I needed this show at this point in my life. I'm kind of glad I didn't watch it a couple of years ago. Like I really needed it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was a kind of a balm for my soul to go completely just new agey. Let me go and sell some crystals after we're done with this. But A+, just for a renewal in hope for humanity. Let's put it that way.
Very nice. Very nice. I went with the standard grading scheme of A++. It is a phenomenal show.
What would Roy Kent have to say about that, I wonder? Pretty much.
Yeah. No, I mean, this episode has been kind of a highlight and discussion of all these positive things about it. It is one of probably the best shows I've ever seen. It is perfectly executed. It has a great cast, a perfect cast for what it needed to be. And to your point, I mean, you just, if you can't come out of this watching this series and feel, like you said, hope or trying to be a better person or extending grace and forgiveness and empathy to people and realizing we're all struggling with different things and we all need understanding, especially when we're at our worst. And, then I don't know what to say, what I mean? Like we all,
I know what to say. Go back and watch it again. Cause obviously something didn't quite click. Just
at some point,
like Clockwork Orange, that thing, just like
at some point, we've all been Nate. At some point, we've all been Ted. At some point, we've all been Roy. I mean, it's just, the characters all.
At some point, we've all been Beard.
We've
Which
all
are
been
the
beard, especially
really
dancing
scary
at the club.
times.
Dancing at the club. That's what I relate to the most, right there. That and Piggy Stardust. But otherwise,
I remember that night when at the apartment.
you know.
I wish you'd skipped on the assless chaps, though. That was unnecessary.
Okay, that was a falsehood. Stop it.
I have the photos, ladies and gentlemen.
Great, produce them because they don't exist.
Sir, just going to say AI exists right now. Anything's possible.
You literally just admitted they're false if you have to use AI to produce.
Does that even matter in the world anymore?
Oh my gosh. So that is my rating. And you know, it's interesting. This is only a 3-season show. I'm forgetting how many episodes. Probably, if I had to guess, in the order of 40?
10 each? 10 or 12 each,
see.
I believe. The first one was
34 episodes. 34 episodes across 3 seasons.
Okay, so it was 10, 12, 12, because I think the first season ended with episode 10.
And the last 2 seasons, or sorry, season 2 and season 3, I think there started to be a varying of the runtime. So most of the time it was like 45 minutes maybe or so. Yeah. And then they started playing with 60 and then 60 or like 75, minutes for some of the episodes. So yeah, no, I can't recommend this series enough. It is it's really an amazing episode, and what Jason Sudeikis conceived of, and what he and his creative team, Brendan Hunt,
all coming from like some
Brett
NBC
Goldstein.
commercials.
Yeah, like them putting this together and producing a show that's not just about a bumbling idiot from America trying to coach a sport he doesn't understand, but dealing with all the, dealing with the reasons why he came to England in the first place. And
oh my gosh, and his relationship with his son and his ex-wife, like we didn't even touch on that.
Yep.
And the frickin' the family therapist that immediately I was like, this son of a bitch, I hope he gets run over by a double-decker bus. I was so ready to take up the Ted. I'm like, I'll fly to London right now if he's right in there.
Oh my gosh. It doesn't take a lot to get or it does take a lot to get Uncle Todd to, kind of get off the couch and throw something at the TV,
Not really. No, I mean, honestly. Well, actually, I have become a much more, I was talking with my wife about this. I've become a much more peaceful, kind, loving person, except when I drive. Then I could kick a kitten. I just lose all of my care and grace for humanity behind the wheel. I don't know what it is. I've got to work on that.
All right.
I'd have my therapist drive around with me, but she is terrified.
One last question
Yes.
before we move on to end another thing. Do you want to see a season 4? Do you think a season 4 is needed?
I mean, is it needed? No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It is a perfect gem. However, if they decided to do a season 4, I would hope that it is done somewhat in the spirit of the way that they did the first 3 seasons. Like, here is the arc, here is the story. And I haven't read deeply into it, but it seems like this was kind of the intention all along, that this was Ted's arc, and this is where it begins, this is where it ends, and there it is. If, much like, oh gosh, what's the dude? Was it Aronofsky? No.
Darren Aronofsky? What?
Yeah, for Watchmen, the HBO series.
Watchmen.
And they were talking about how, like, he was like, afterwards, after the first season, they're like, my God, this is amazing. When season 2 comes, he's like, well, I don't have another story. If I have another story, then yeah, we can do a season 2, but I don't have another story. Isn't
Damon
right there
Lindelof.
waiting.
Damon
Lindelof. I'm getting my last names that I can barely pronounce correctly confused.
No worries.
But if Sudeikis and co have another story, like, they're like, what happens now if Ted is reunited with his wife and his family, and he takes over as coach of a team in America? I could see that. Like, okay, that could be kind of cool. And how does that work? Or I don't know. I don't know what the story would be. I'm sure if you gave me a week and someone would, hey, Jason, if you want to give me a couple shekels here to take a couple weeks off from work and try and break a couple stories, I'm more than willing. I'm an idea man. I might not be able to implement a bunch of them, but I'll churn out some ideas for you.
There'll be a lot of mentions of "if you will" throughout the script, but
yeah. How are we having a hologram Dusty Rose in this episode? It's not necessary. It was just spitballing.
What's this character Dusty all about?
Yeah. How are we gonna have a 300-pound center fielder? Midfielder, I'm sorry. But if there's a story to tell, so there's an interview, or maybe it's one of his Q&A sessions, but Kevin Smith had talked about like why he continues to go back to like the Clerks characters or the characters from the View Askew universe. And he's like, I created these characters. He's like, I every so often I want to know what they're up to. And he's like, I just start writing about them because I love these characters. I've grown up with them. I want to see what they're up to these days. There is part of me that's like, yeah, I want to know what happens with Ted afterwards. Like, what happens with Rebecca? What happens with Roy? Because they're compelling characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if there's a story to tell, and if Jason Sudeikis feels good enough about that, and it's not just like a, hey, sailor, like, how much money you got on you?
Mm-hmm.
If it's an actual story, I'm all in. Totally.
Yeah.
And even if it's subpar, if it's like, it doesn't live up to the first 3 seasons, I'm sure I'll still enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. What about you? How do you feel about that?
I'm actually in the other camp. I honestly, this, like I said, this was about as perfect of a show as you're going to see. I don't see a point to, I mean, it saddened me that we weren't going to get another season, but also what sort of story are we going to get? Are we going to start feeling this is cheapening what we've seen? Are we going to get subpar storytelling now with these characters because they're not, there's not kind of a goal or direction that they're going in. Like there's throughout the series there's this along with all the other pieces we've talked about, there's always been this sort of growth that's been going on. And as we saw at the end of season 3, a lot of the characters have landed in certain places. Now, would it be cool to see what they're doing after that? Of course, but I also think you lose the charm of the characters because they're going to be fundamentally different. They've found in some ways their place, and that's where I just kind of feel like I don't know that I need to see more, because this show is about hope and about forgiveness and about, facing, kind of your demons in a way to make yourself a better person. And that was accomplished. And so I'm happy with the universe of just that without having to see the wider universe beyond that. But that's just me.
And I totally get that. I totally see that angle on it.
Yes.
Because there is that, like I talk about Titus, and one of the actors, Zach Ward, had talked about, because Titus is a wonderful example of how a studio can or a network can totally jack around with a product that people love and ultimately drive it into the ground because of politics behind the scene that has almost nothing to do with the show.
Yeah.
And the show ended up getting canceled after 3 seasons, and it still was getting ratings higher than like 50% of the other shows that were renewed for the next year. Like, it almost became like somewhat like how the fantasy gods decided with my team, F this team in particular. It was like, F this show in particular. But one of the actors, Zach Ward, who plays Titus's brother, Dave, in the show, he's like, it only lasted 3 seasons, but it's perfect. Like, it was perfect. Like, it kind of came to this thing, and it's this thing that's there. And I relate to different things in my life. Like, there's aspects, things I've done where I'm like, wow, if that could have continued, or this and that and the other. And it's like, no, you know what, that was special. And it's special because it didn't continue.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. But at the same time, I kind of jealous. Selfishly, I kind of want more. But I totally get what you're saying. And there is, believe me, there is part of me. It's about 25-30% of me that's like, F it up, please.
Yeah.
Don't make me think less of it. But the rest of me is like, no, I want more. Give me more.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I get it too. I mean, I get wanting to see more too. And if they do it, would I check it out? Of course I would. But at the same time, I don't need it. And quite honestly, if I do see it, I'm going to be kind of concerned of what it's going to do to spoil, where I am with it right now. Like, I just feel like I said, I'm happy with it just being what it is. This universe is, produced a great story. That's what it is. I mean, and not to get into a big long discussion about this, but if you think about like BSG, right?
Oh, why stop now?
No. Because I need to go to bed soon. So I have to go downtown tomorrow. I need to get my rest. So, but no, I mean, if you think about BSG after they settle on Earth, right? I mean, is following Adama around really going to be that interesting when he has no one to interact with, when it's just himself in a cabin? You know what I mean? Like,
dude,
that's
you're asking the wrong person. I would watch 3 seasons of Eddie Almost in a cabin by himself. Are you kidding me?
Admiral Adama, Mountain Man.
I am so effing in on that. You don't even know. Like Starbuck Space
I
Angel.
should have just kept my mouth shut. I don't know why.
Starbuck Angel of Light occasionally popping in. Like, come on.
James Callis popping by. Hello. Can I get a tomato?
No, he'd be bringing the tomatoes. Remember, he was a farmer.
Oh, that is true. He is the farmer.
Oh man. Okay, before we get too much more off the beaten track, who am I kidding? We're so far off the track right now. We have friggin' GPS and Siri, and we're still not getting back. What do you have for and another thing this episode?
I thought you were going to call a potty break here or something. I was going to be like, oh, crap.
I'm going to stay strong.
My and another thing is about a 20-minute clip you can find on YouTube. I've included a link, and it is.
You've included the link.
I've included a link. Of course I have.
I include the link every time.
No, you don't. I'm the guy who does the copy paste, as you recall. Look at him sit back, sipping on the bourbon. It's like, why am I talking to this chucklehead? Oh, subtle. Very nice.
Baba, proceed.
All right. There is a interview that was done. It says Bloomberg Live. I think it was part of some sort of business sort of expo sort of thing. But ironically, it involves Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman speaking about WWE and a lot of changes they've made and kind of the move they're making towards streaming on Netflix, how that's going to impact the business. What are some of the things that they're interested, in kind of seeing, or bringing to the fans, in this new platform. It was a really interesting interview because it was Roman Reigns plays a pretty subdued character for the most part, as the tribal chief, but Paul Heyman is normally the hype man and the guy who is, a little more loud and out there and vociferous, and
the opposite of subdued.
And this was the first interview I've seen where Heyman was he was being good. You know what I mean? Like he was not being typical Paul Heyman, and he had some very thoughtful answers.
He wasn't cutting no promos.
He wasn't cutting any promos, although Reigns does reference that if Paul were to cut a Hall of Fame kind of promo, we'd be in trouble. I think it had to do with like Netflix and the whole will there be swearing or not? And it's like, well, if they let Paul cut any Hall of Fame promos, we're in for an interesting night.
Between Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame promo, which it was an acceptance. It was an acceptance speech, but it was essentially a 15-minute promo.
Oh yeah,
and Jim Cornette's promo that he cut on Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland.
I'm just about through that, and oh my God.
That is just one long promo. And Uncle Corny, he's a poet when it comes to cussing. It's amazing.
I didn't note the minute and second, but there is a point, ladies and gentlemen, where that man strings together a set of expletives in such a prolific way.
I texted you. I texted you the link, and then I got 3 or 4 minutes into it, and I was like, I think he might have a stroke, and he's still got 17 minutes left to go. I'm like, this could be the last Jim Cornette episode.
Absolutely.
He just might keel over after this.
Absolutely. So yeah, I don't have it pulled up right now, but the title of it is Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, Bloomberg Live, September 5th, 2024. It's about 20 minutes long. Reigns has, he's mentioned some interesting things, and there was one point that was kind of funny to me, being in technology, where like you could tell one of the interviewers, and they say this, one of the interviewers was a sports person, the other one was more business related, so she of course is asking more kind of businessy sort of questions, and you know has a little bit of coaching in terms of what wrestling is, but clearly doesn't really understand it. But there was a question where, and it's a fair question, she asked, like, what does Heyman and Reigns, what sort of data points, like, are they looking at, from trying to understand what viewers are interested in. And Reigns' answer just cracked me up, because like he just starts with kind of a generic answer about, oh yeah, I'd love to kind of understand the ratings and what's interesting your viewers at different points in the show, stuff I'm doing, other stuff. And he's like, I want to look at the data, the algorithm. As soon as he said the algorithms, I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. All I can see is Roman Reigns looking at code. You know what I mean? And being like, the heck?
Can we get him in the Matrix?
So anyways, it was that was just a funny moment. But no, they're very thoughtful about their answers. They're very subdued. It was a very different Paul Heyman than we see in like the Comic-Con interviews and that sort of thing. Like,
well, yeah,
he was very much, it's almost like they were both just trying to be very kind of respectful to the forum they were in, and not trying to bring the theatrics of the show into it. It was talk business, be representatives of the company, talk about the Netflix shift, talk about where the business is going. And so I found it very interesting. So if you're interested in kind of seeing Paul and Roman in kind of a different light, and a little bit of the kind of more, I don't want to say human side of them, but just the less theatrical side of them, it was very interesting to me. And it was interesting to hear their answers, except for the part where Roman wants to see the algorithms, because that just cracked me up. Anyways, what is your end and other thing, sir? Hopefully not involving algorithms.
Well, just to piggyback quickly on your comment on yours, I think that it's interesting to watch Paul Heyman now.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, because you really are seeing like the bombast used much more tastefully.
Yes.
And you can definitely see this is a guy who has realized, like, he's gone around this cycle a few times. And so it's very easy for me to understand, like, yes, he understands how important things like this are now to the business of the business. And especially where he's in his Hall of Fame speech, he establishes himself very firmly, and has said it in several other interviews I've seen, as a Paul Levesque guy. Like, this is a guy who now, like, because even in the documentary I just finished watching today, like, he talks about Vince, and he gives Vince some roses, because obviously at the time Vince was in charge, and Vince was contingent on his employment. But there's also times when he says stuff where he's all but winking at the camera.
Yep.
As I gotta say it this way, right?
Right.
And now you get a little bit more feeling of, like, you know what, this guy I can work with, that sort of thing. And I can see him being like, Paul being like, hey, I need you to go do this thing, and hey, just give me like Paul Heyman on 3. If you feel it's appropriate, go to 5.
Yep.
But please, this is a stock thing.
Yeah.
This is like a business thing. He's like, okay, I can do that. I think that this is a very interesting era of Paul Heyman. And I will iterate once again, Paul, because we know you'll watch the show, please take care of yourself. Work in a salad. Get a little cardio. No. I am sincere in this. We need you around. We need you to stick around for many more years. Please take care of yourself. It doesn't look like you are. So please take care of yourself. Want to see you on TV for years to come. Want to see the things that you're going to do. Like, we've been robbed of Stevie Ray Vaughan back in 1993 or 94. You are pretty much the Stevie Ray Vaughan of wrestling in many ways, of the assimilation and the forward moving direction. Please don't rob us of the next 15, 20 years of Paul Heyman. End of story. And another thing is Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the director's edition that you can watch on Paramount Plus. This is brought to me by my friend Ken, who I remember watching. I think I've only watched this movie once. I maybe had caught some other little bits of it, but I only watched it once, like beginning to end. And I remember watching it going, "Oh, fudge me, this is real boring." And found out later the reason for that is because like this was very much a horse designed by committee, a camel, and kind of grew out of the fact that they were trying to do a Star Trek. What the heck was it called? I can't remember. It was a new Star Trek show that was going to use the original cast. Obviously, this is before Next Generation, and it was I think it was Star Trek Phase 2. And so a lot of the costumes and stuff that came into the motion picture were from Phase 2. They'd already prepped stuff and characters even. And of course, because it's cinematic, they spent a lot of time on like famously Kevin Smith had mentioned, like there was a lot of glory shots of the Enterprise. It was ba 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 like just like 15-minute shots of the Enterprise approaching the Enterprise. But a lot of what the original movie that I have probably seen, I think I rented it on like VHS back in the day, was because the original theatrical version was very compromised. There was no chance to finish. Like a lot of visual effects were left. A lot of the sound effects, a lot of the sound design was like completely haphazard and just thrown together because they were literally delivering this print. I believe they were delivering this print wet to the theaters, which is essentially like they had just cut this and printed it, and it's being delivered to the theaters like in such a short time. Like the print is actually still wet from being in the lab. So this director's edition is the original director getting money to go back and finish some of those shots, get the sound design right. I watched this on Paramount Plus, and it was a totally different experience. Like, is it still a little bit boring? Yes. In the same way that I look at 2001: A Space Odyssey and go, oh my gosh, if I could edit this down by about 30, 40 minutes, this movie would move. But that's not what it's meant to be. It was meant to be the 2001 of the Star Trek universe, and in that, it succeeds. Yeah, the uniforms are kind of meh. Some of the performance is a little off, but at the same time, this director's cut edition corrects a lot of the wrongs of what I remember watching on VHS. And I watched this, I'm like, I get it. Maybe it's because I'm old and I like slower movies now. I don't know. But I would recommend that you, excuse me. My goodness.
You okay over there?
Yeah, my steak is fighting me. I recommend that you watch this because if you hadn't seen Star Trek: The Motion Picture, or if, like me, you watched an ancient version of it way back in the day and wrote it off, it does hit different when you see the movie kind of completed as it should have been. So check that out on the Paramount Plus.
Very nice.
Developing some hiccups here, but
it's also on YouTube as well if you want to see it for free. So.
It is. Oh, it's for free on YouTube.
Not the director's cut, but there's
no. Do yourself a favor, like if you really want to see the movie as it should be, subscribe to Paramount Plus, watch 1, then go ahead and watch like 2, 3, 4, because we all know everybody loves Wrath of Khan. Because immediately after this movie, I started watching Wrath of Khan because it just automatically played. I'm like, well, son of a bitch, why not? Ricardo Montalban is going to be on in a minute. Jim Kirk is going to be drinking Romulan ale with Bones. Hey, let's go for it. Watch 2, 3, and 4, and then do yourself a favor and like binge Strange New Worlds season 1 and 2. You can handle that in a month, cancel it, and then wait until season 3 comes back. hit up season 3, and while you're waiting for those episodes, go back and watch something Lower Decks or something else. I'm just saying. I'm trying to save you a couple shekels.
Uncle Todd's got the whole plan laid out.
And that's because I'm actually canceling Paramount Plus because I've got to rein in the spending a little bit.
Oh dear.
I didn't realize Strange New World season 3 isn't coming out till 2025. I'm like, I can save a couple months worth of money here.
Jeez,
these things are getting more expensive, dude. Like the only murders in the building.
Yeah,
that upped my friggin' Disney Plus subscription from like $16 to $20. It's hurting my bourbon budget.
Oh, hello.
One of these days, I'm going to be drinking that apple Jack Daniels crap that you got.
Well,
Anywho, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. We are now going to wrap this bitch up. It's only, what is it? Almost 11 p.m. here on the East Coast. So it's about time
Uncle
for
Todd
us to
being a stride.
I am. I can go another 2-3 hours now. That Wild Turkey 101.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me.
If you will. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, for watching. We do certainly appreciate all of our listeners, all our subscribers. Y'all are the reason. Well, I mean, actually, the reason why we do this is because we love being goofballs and making each other laugh. But you know what? The fact that you get a chance to watch this and enjoy it with us, that is just the icing on the cake. And quite honestly, it is a quite lovely icing. So please go to freerangeidiocy.com. You can download episodes individually there. You can subscribe to the Podbean app. If you don't want to have another app in your life, that's fine. We got you. You can go to Apple Podcasts. You can go to Spotify Podcasts. You can go to Pandora, whatever the hell Amazon calls their podcast service. And there's a whole bunch of others. I'm pretty sure we're like on Larry's Leisure Podcast Lounge or something. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of
could
others.
Be in worse places.
Yeah, I mean, I think Samsung Podcast was a point of growth for us at one point, which is I was like, that's a thing. Sure. But anyways, go ahead and search for Free Range Idiocy. You are sure to find us. And you can also find us on the social medias. We are on the Instagram. We are on the Facebook. We are on the YouTubes. All of those are at Free Range Idiocy. We have full video episodes. If you happen to be listening to this just audio only and you really want to know what we look like and the facial expressions we make and the times that I've gotten up here and you get to see my flannel PJs as I'm standing up. Oh, it's
or you get to see the ceiling fan running.
Do that too. It's my biggest fan. Anyways. Hey, you know what? That's such a dad joke, but it tracks. You can find all of our episodes full video at on youtube.com youtube.com/@Tumbledown Saints. But if you just go to YouTube and you search Tumbledown Saints, that's the name of my band, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what happened? Was there a merger I wasn't made aware of? Or?
I'm just trying to attract some attention.
Jeez Louise, man.
Sorry, my brain like sectioned off into another area. Yeah, but hey, follow Tumbledown Saints as well, and you can see me sing and make fun of me there because you make fun of me here, make fun of me there. youtube.com/@freerangeidiocy. There we go. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. And if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, comments that you'd like to make and maybe be read out on the podcast, it hasn't happened yet because son of a bitch,
no,
you haven't done it.
I'm predicting the 200th episode we'll finally get a question.
Oh, geez, I don't know if I'm going to make it that long.
No, we're 177. We're not that far away. Come on now, man.
I know, but I could go at any time, you know. Honestly, if my wife just smothered me with her pillow in the middle of the night, I wouldn't blame her at all. Quite honestly, it's like, yep, I had that coming. Had it coming. Anyways, if you have thoughts, concerns, questions, or comments, send those to tim@freerangeidiocy.com. That cheerful butt. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm turning this over to the least idiotic of the two idiots who run this show. Oh, yeah, we're heading downhill real quick here. Not before I ask the second most important question in all of human history. The first, of course, being, Tim.
What is hip?
Thank you very much. The second being, what in the hell did we learn this episode, sir?
Well, we just learned apparently your wife is looking to smother you with a pillow.
Wouldn't you? I know you attempted when I was out there in Chicago. I know you stood over. I know you stood over the fold-out futon you put me on. You with a pillow. You're like, I could end it all right now.
First of all, it wasn't a fold-out anything. It was a trundle bed for crying out loud.
Do you call that a trundle? I thought the trundle bed was the thing that went under the.
Well, it was a day bed with a trundle underneath.
Oh my gosh! It's like that's like the condominium of beds. Like, ain't nobody happy with this.
Oh, maybe the next time you're out, I will smother you. Jeez Louise.
Again, I wouldn't blame you one bit.
Good Lord. We have learned the following, my friend.
Oh, good.
Yes, we do have a list, and it is a long. No, it's not a long. We have learned that Uncle Todd, ran out of a little bit of luck in week 2, and man, they call Tim is cruising right along, but apparently the wheels are coming off because we have a couple of wide receivers who have gotten injured and a running back who's out for several weeks. So we will see what Lady Luck holds for him next week. We've also learned that Raw going to 2 hours might be a good thing, might not be a good thing. Depends on how you look at it. We shall see. It'll be interesting. We've learned that the MCU, we may see more of Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine.
He's the red!
And, we may see Elizabeth Olsen again sometime in the future as Scarlet Witch, if the right story opportunity presents itself.
Yeah!
Finally, as we've talked about, if you haven't already guessed, Ted Lasso is the best damn show that we've all seen. It is right up there with some of the best, and if you have not seen it, we would highly encourage it if you couldn't tell from this 2-hour and 50-minute tome that we have put together.
Wait a minute. Would you say that Ted Lasso is, I don't know, maybe...
Oh, here we go. Let's do it.
Glorious.
There it is.
No, I won't give in.
It is.
I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. I will defend.
Oh, you haven't turned it on? There it is. This is what AFC Richmond needs to come out to when they run onto the pitch.
Glorious.
There it is.
No, I won't give in.
Wonderful. It is glorious. A wonderful show.
You know, I so want to get an AFC Richmond shirt.
You should.
I need to get the whole kit,
complete
along with like the shin
collection.
pads and everything.
You should.
Yeah. Anyways,
Stuff like Jamie Tartt.
No, not Jamie Tartt. I would definitely get Roy Kent's number. Or actually, we didn't even talk about what was the name of the character? Zaz.
Zava?
Zava. Oh my gosh! What a fever dream that was in the middle of season 2.
That kind of didn't really materialize into much. I mean, if there was one kind of downside, I would say.
No, I thought that was great because it's so.
I mean, Rebecca dressed him down, which was phenomenal. To convince him to sign with her. But
at the urinal, which was again, I was
boss move.
But the funny thing was, I actually, I think my wife was sort of like, what? And I'm like, no, that makes perfect sense from like the head case star athlete perspective. Like, no, I get it. Like this is kind of what I figured what would happen with Randy Moss, except he stuck around. You know, we didn't even talk about Zava. How did that happen?
That's all right.
Anyways.
Not a high point of the show.
Here's to you, Zava.
Here's to you, Zava.
Oh, hush your mouth.
Well, nonetheless,
Yes,
if we will. But yes, do check out Ted Lasso. It is a great show. It is. We both have immensely enjoyed it. It is quite bingeable. So do proceed with caution, because it will chew up some time. It will chew up some time. You okay over there?
I am.
Okay. We've also learned Uncle Todd has a little trouble handling the steak. Apparently, the digestive system, some rumbling going on over there, it seems like. So.
It's not the quality, it's the quantity. I went back for seconds I should not have.
Oh, my gosh. I still can't
on the other
get over
hand,
smothering.
I went knee deep in the steak. My wife went for the corn on the cob. She had 3 freaking ears of corn on the cob.
That sounds about right. That's what I would put it like.
And the
Back
funny
in
thing
the
is,
day.
I wanted to ask her, I'm like, so is corn on the cob or lobster your favorite butter delivery vehicle? Because it really is. It's one of those times when you look at like, we can just put as much butter on it as possible and nobody blinks.
Yeah.
You know?
Lobster is basically a butter sponge. That is what it is.
And literally for the corn on the cob tonight, we did the thing where you unwrap half of the butter stick, fresh out of the fridge because it's got to be kind of solid, and then you use that as the part that's wrapped as a handle, and you just slather. You melt the butter on, and then if you get to a point where you're like, it's not enough, then you take the butter again, you're like, and you just slather that on, and then salt and pepper and.
I actually like to eat the corn just plain. I don't put anything on it. I eat it au natural, and it is phenomenal.
You just raw dog that thing?
Dude, you taste the natural sugars there. You taste the flavor. It is... I would highly recommend it. I don't do butter. I don't do anything. I just eat it as is, and it is phenomenal.
I feel like I've just encountered like a Zen master. Like I need to like apprentice myself.
That's right.
Teach me your ways. Teach me your ways.
I will. Don't use the butter.
I'm sorry, you lost me there.
I'm sorry.
You lost me. You can't use the butter. You know what? Piss off.
All right. Well, and we once again learned apparently Uncle Todd may depart from this world shortly due to smothering. We shall see.
You know what? Would anyone be surprised?
Maybe.
No, you wouldn't.
Maybe. We've also learned Kaylin comes in with the kazoo and lays some tunes down.
I gotta find that thing when she goes to school tomorrow. Gotta find it. I bet she hides it.
Probably. She knows her father will avenge.
I would find her personal diary before I'd find the kazoo. Like that is, it's like under a floorboard in between like insulation. Yeah.
Well, with all that being said, as we like to close things out here on the range, be safe, be healthy, be kind, be good to one another. We'll throw one extra in, believe. And you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. To quote the Doctor of Style Slick, turn out the lights, the party's over.
No, that's
see ya.
That's right, I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
Damn!
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all.
So say we all.
That is the Doctor of Style Slick.
No, that goes back to Dandy Don Meredith from Monday Night Football.
Well, that's fine. Well, the Doctor of Style Slick used it in wrestling, and that's where I saw it first. So it comes from Slick, darn it.
But it doesn't.
Well, that's all right.
Oh, Howard Cosell would tear you a new a-hole right now.
Now get the hell out of here!